Okay, I think we're live. I'm not even sure what's going on here. Listen, stay tuned right here. This is Pastor Robert L. Carpenter II. Breaking news: Donald Trump, there was an assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. I was watching on X, and I saw it live. I was like, oh my God. I was walking out the door, go get ready to get something to eat. Anyway, stay tuned right here. If you find anything, let us know. Put your comments down below. We're going to go ahead and put you on with some of the various networks and see what's going on here. It was, oh, man.
This crime scene, trying to find out as much as they possibly can about the shooter or shooters or that fired maybe a weapon there. But I can tell you, when a presidential candidate is on the stage like that, normally they have bulletproof vests on, and the Secret Service is surrounding them. And if you notice there how fast the Secret Service converged on Trump here was real immediately.
Okay, Ted, thank you very much. Don't go far. Lucas, we're hearing now from the Secret Service, getting some kind of reaction and update to what happened. What do we know?
Well, Shannon, we just received a statement from the White House, which says, I'm just going to read it. President Biden has received an initial briefing on the incident at former President Trump's rally. It's notable, Shannon, that they're not calling this a shooting right now. And the Secret Service also out with a new statement saying, quote, an incident occurred the evening of July 13th at a Trump rally in Pennsylvania. The Secret Service has implemented protective measures and the former president is safe. This is now an active Secret Service investigation and further information will be released when available. So the big takeaway from there, Shannon, is the Secret Service and the White House are not calling this a shooting right now at former President Trump's rally. They're merely calling it an incident. So we'll stay tuned on what more they have to say, Shannon.
Okay, Lucas, thank you very much. I think we've got my colleague Brett Baer with us now. Brett, that latest statement from the Secret Service saying the former president is safe. Your reaction to this moment unfolding in the middle of a very heated election campaign?
Yeah, Shannon, I'm on my way actually to a plane to Milwaukee, obviously, to start our coverage tomorrow night for the Republican convention. And this obviously a major surprise, reaching out to campaign officials and officials around the campaign. Everything we've heard so far is that there's some kind of nick on the ear. You saw the picture, the close-up of the blood on his face. But everything we're told so far is that the former president is okay at this point. You saw the Secret Service move very quickly and surround him in a matter of seconds as you look at that video. And, you know, it's reminiscent of past presidents like President Ronald Reagan. And you've seen those images before. Fortunately, it appears that this is not that. And it's interesting that the White House put out that statement. There is an investigation ongoing, but we're getting it by the minute here. Most importantly, the word we're getting initially is that the former president is okay.
Yeah, I mean, Brett, that is the most reassuring thing, especially after seeing him there. And you know, we could hear the audio as the Secret Service seemed very ready for him to get moving. And he's saying, let me get my shoes on, pumping his fist for the crowd, trying to indicate it seemed like he was walking off on his own. They were shuffling him out of there and obviously creating a protective cordon around him. So he may have been completely fine to walk, and maybe it appeared a little bit slowed down simply by their efforts to protect him, surround him, and get him down those stairs and get him out of there. We do know that President Biden has been briefed. As you said, I mean, we're here in Milwaukee. This is just a couple of days before they officially begin their kickoff here. What do you think may be the impact of this? Because we have just felt that this country is so divided And now we're looking at a moment which to everyone, every decent person in this country is something they never want to see in any political rally.
This is a moment where our country is in a really precarious position. You know, you have a Democratic Party that is, in turmoil. The president's saying he's sticking it out and he's going to run. However, there's a lot of talk about whether he is or whether he isn't. But this incident is a big moment, and we have to find out all the details and what exactly happened and where those shots came from or what they were. We don't have a lot of details on that, but it just adds to this tumult that we are seeing in this country as we head towards the conventions, the Republican convention first, and hopefully, it's going to be peaceful. There will be increased security, guaranteed, Shannon, with all that we're seeing so far.
Brett, I want to read this just coming in. Brooke Singman from us, one of our colleagues here at Fox, has this urgent statement from the Trump campaign saying President Trump thanks law enforcement and first responders for their quick action during this heinous act. He is fine and is being checked out at a local medical facility. More details will follow. So, Brett, again, another assurance, the first coming from Secret Service and now from the Trump campaign itself, that it sounds like he is doing well. And whatever the intentions were of whatever happened there at the rally, it sounds like he's going to be just fine. And probably, I would guess, you knowing him, I knowing him as many folks know him, probably more fired up than ever to get back out there on the campaign trail. Yeah,
and I think that just the indication that he wanted to get up and raise his fist after that moment, I think was an image he wanted to portray. I think there's a lot to know where things are coming from.
Absolutely. Brett, thank you very much. Safe travels. We will see you here very shortly in Milwaukee. Excuse me. I want to make sure that we get to nationally syndicated political reporter Selena Zito. She is a Pennsylvanian. She is somebody who has a Pennsylvanian, I guess would be the right term. She covers this state border to border, knows it inside and out. You were there at the rally, Selena. Can you tell us what you witnessed?
Yeah, so I was here at the rally, been here since 12 o'clock this afternoon. I had actually met with the president for a couple minutes before he went out on the stage. He was in great spirits. We were to do an interview after the rally. I was in the buffer, so the buffer zone is the area where it's like this narrow area that's right along where the president stands. And as I was, with other photographers, I heard something coming out sort of from the left-hand side, and you saw the president go down. And immediately, what I could hear him say was, "Let me get my shoes." He got right back up. I could see him raise his fist. And then the Secret Service and military, law enforcement sort of surrounded him. It wasn't to hold him up, but it was to protect him because no one knew where the shooter was at that point, to walk him off of the stage and into his motorcade.
Yeah, and Selena, we're hearing it. You're there in person. We're hearing it, rewatching this tape over and over again. What did it sound like to you? We've had reports of a puff of smoke or puffs of smoke. Could you see anything about a person? You mentioned the direction where this was coming from. Any of those details?
Well, not really, because the sun was in my eye. So I couldn't see. I could tell the direction it was coming from, but I couldn't see the person. And then the advance man laid on top of me and to make sure I was okay. So that's what that experience was like. But as a gunner, I know what that sound is like, so I knew immediately it was a gun.
Okay, so for your assessment, there being on the ground, it wasn't a firework or something like that. In your hearing of it, it did sound like a firearm.
Oh, yes, definitely. No doubt about it.
Okay, well, we know that they have tried to, clear folks from there. There's obviously a crime scene investigation that's going on there. Selena, we are glad you're safe. Please stay with us. I want to check back in with Britt Hume as we're learning a little bit more. Britt, we've now got statements from the Secret Service and also from the Trump campaign that the former president is safe. That is excellent news. That is the best possible news. It doesn't take away from the shock and the distress of whatever was attempted there. You heard Selena Zito. She is now confident, as a gun owner herself and somebody who was an eyewitness, that this was a firearm.
I don't think there's been much doubt about that, Shannon. It's completely consistent with the video that we've seen, particularly with that remarkable shot we saw where the president flinched and raised his hand to the right side of his head to his ear. And that's consistent with the video we've seen of the blood streaming from that area of his ear and face. I think we can now trust the statements that are being made to say that he's okay. All the video evidence we can see, including this picture that was on the screen just moments ago of him raising his fist and being carried away by the Secret Service group, confirms that. So I think this looks like something that could have been much worse than it is at the moment, than it's turned out to be. And we can all be very grateful for that indeed, and very grateful indeed as well for the Secret Service. They don't mess around, as you could see. The president was trying to, stand up, raise his fist, signal to the crowd that he was okay, and they were completely preoccupied with the job of getting him off that stage and into the motor vehicle that took him away.
Exactly. And we are now getting a reaction. We know that President Biden has been briefed. We're seeing statements from a number of people across the political spectrum. We just have one now from Governor Kathy Hochul out of New York, a Democrat. Clearly, she says any violence against a fellow American is disgusting and unacceptable. We must express political disagreements peacefully, civilly, and respectfully. I am praying for the safety and health of former President Trump and all those who are attending this event in Pennsylvania. And Britt, we talked about, maybe does this actually take the temperature down because people realize just how overheated things have gotten?
Well, it's certainly something to hope for, Shannon. We're in the heat of an intensely competitive presidential campaign in which, we've learned things that we hope we wouldn't ever find out about our current president. We've now seen an attempt on the life of our past president and possible future president. So these are certainly perilous times in our nation's history. And these pictures we see now of the president, his face covered in part with blood, are going to live with us for a long time.
Certainly are. We're now hearing also from the top Democrat over on the House side, Hakeem Jeffries, saying my thoughts and prayers are with former President Trump. I am thankful for the decisive law enforcement response. America is a democracy. Political violence of any kind is never acceptable. I want to bring in former FBI Special Agent Nicole Parker. Nicole, you've had a chance to see this as this plays out. You and your fellow brothers and sisters in uniform who do this by choice and protect folks and jump into the line of fire. Your reaction to what you've seen and what we know so far?
Well, first of all, my due respect goes out to the United States Secret Service. They are the heroes today. Secret Service, that is their job. They put their lives on the line. You saw how they rallied around President Trump immediately in the aftermath, and they were willing to take a bullet for him. And that is what Secret Service agents do. And, we haven't had an attempted assassination of a president in a very long time. But I hate to say this, Shannon, I am not shocked by this. I am not. Trump derangement syndrome is real. People hate this man, and they will do anything that they have to take him out. And that is a terrifying statement to make in our nation right now, but it is a fact. With the counter assault team, the Secret Service has a counter assault team, and it's usually about 4 to 6 agents.
Okay, Nicole, it sounds like we are losing you, but let's reestablish connection and then we will get back to you, Nicole. But for those of you who have not seen, we want to replay for you what happened moments ago.
Probably 20 million people. And that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Moving stair. Hold. When you're ready. On you. Ready. Move. Up. Move. Go. Up. Hawkeye's here. Hawkeye's here. Moving to the stair. Stair, get ready. Stair, get ready. We ready? Are we good? Shooters down. Are we good to move? We're clear. We're clear. Let's go. Let's move. We're clear. Come on.
Let me get my shoes.
I got you, sir. I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes.
Hold that in your head, buddy.
So we got to move to the bus. Let me get my shoes.
Okay, my shoes down.
What's up?
That incident, as we are learning more, we are told President Trump, defiant and on his feet as he was leaving, is fine. That's according to his campaign. That's according to the Secret Service as well. That is what played out at Butler, Pennsylvania, as President Trump had just begun a rally there to be his last before coming here to Milwaukee for the Republican National Convention. I want to toss it now to my colleague, Jason Chaffetz, who picks up our coverage from here as we all still try to digest, Jason, and learn more about what happened this afternoon.
Yeah, nobody wants to see this, but when things happen, you got the Secret Service who jumped in there, put their lives on the line. That's what these men and women do. The president was defiant to get up there and pump his fist and say, fight. I think that's what he's saying. He's worried about getting his shoes. Look, the Secret Service, of which I've studied quite deeply, they have all these protocols in place. They're going to have multiple locations on where to take the president. They are going to get some criticism and questions about how anybody could get that close, if indeed it was a firearm that was there. But once that comes into action, the Secret Service will tighten its perimeter around the other protectees, the Trump children. You don't know how wide this might be. Is it just a lone person? Is it a couple of different people? Don't know if the reports about other people being injured there are true or not.
Are you leaving?
And that will be interesting to see if how that plays out. But the president there with the flag in the background, blood coming from his face, standing defiantly, I think will be perhaps the most defining moment of this presidential election year. They tried to incarcerate him. They've now had an assassination attempt on the president. And the temperature in this country, we all need to take a deep breath. But at the same time, you know what? This country, we have got to make sure that we can have free, fair elections.
To our country,
and
probably 20 million people. And that's a little bit old, that chart.
Okay, you good? So you hear what the president's saying there, and what he's doing, and the way he reacts to that gunshot. Now we don't have a full confirmation that it is an actual gunshot, but that's what people on the ground are saying. I'm fairly familiar with firearms. At least that's what it sounds like. But until somebody definitively from the Secret Service or local law enforcement says that, you don't know. You also have local law enforcement. Local law enforcement is going to be there. You're going to have tactical teams. You're going to have SWAT teams. You're going to potentially have National Guardsmen there that are there to support the effort. When you have such a large, massive crowd, you have law enforcement of all sorts that is there. So, the initial reaction from the Secret Service looks to be pretty amazing, to jump in front and cover up the president, get him into that motorcade and get him to there are going to be multiple different hospitals or extraction points for the president. And, the Secret Service, that's what they're doing. That's what they're paid to do. But it's more than that. They got to have guts to get it done. And when the president stood up and pumped his hand, blood coming from his ear and his fist, the guy's a fighter. You can say a lot about Donald Trump, but he is a fighter.
Jason Chaffetz, thank you for that. And stay with us. I'm Bill Hemmer live here in Milwaukee, along with my colleague, Shannon Bream. And Shannon, this is quite a moment. It is quite a moment in American history. It is quite a moment in this campaign. Butler, Pennsylvania is one of these rural communities north of Pittsburgh, about 50 miles, where the rural community in America is really the backbone of Donald Trump's strength. And even a week and a half ago, even Democrats were talking about this rally as getting great attendance, and certainly it was. Seemed to be a beautiful day with ocean blue skies above, and so many had gathered there to hear the president's message. I think the image we're watching, that low camera shot, the still camera frame, has already become somewhat iconic in American politics. You have a former president trying to do something we have only seen one other time in American history, and that is recapture a job he used to have. You have to go back to the 1890s to find another American, and Grover Cleveland, when he defeated Benjamin Harrison in the 1890s to win back his seat. Donald Trump has had an eye on this seat ever since he left Washington, D.C. in January of 2021. Butler, Pennsylvania is the kind of community where Donald Trump has made a political living now for really going on 8 years. These are the people who have turned red in a significant way in county after rural county across the country. These, Shannon, basically are his people. And as we watch that and listen just to the gnat sound of that rat-a-tat-tat, without drawing any conclusions as of now, it sounds like a bullet shot, certainly. It sounds like the rat-a-tat-tat that you would hear. I know Lucas Tomlin said the Secret Service has not characterized it that way, so we'll be cautious in our information as we move throughout the evening. But I have to think also some of that sound you hear could very well have been the bullets fired by the Secret Service. And that's the reason why, Shannon, we got that report of a, quote, shooter down.
Yeah. And, as we watch that, as we listen, as we try to collect the facts, we had just a moment ago Selena Zito, who is a reporter who covers Pennsylvania. That is her territory. And Bill, the way you describe it, that is what she does, talking to the people of the heartland of Pennsylvania and covering exactly what's going on there. In fact, I think back, she was one of the few people in 2016 that was pretty confident, based on what she was seeing in Pennsylvania, that it was going to signal to the rest of the country that Donald Trump actually had a chance. She believed it to be very good to become president. She was at that rally today. She, as a gun owner herself, and she said she, in her estimation, being there as an eyewitness, immediately recognized the sounds of gunfire. Bill, I think we want to bring in former FBI Special Agent Chris Swecker to weigh in on where we are now, because clearly we know that there are threats. Chris, we know they are constantly being monitored for a number of high-profile people, certainly people that are in the midst of a presidential election. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, well, this is now an FBI investigation. The FBI has exclusive jurisdiction over assassination attempts or any assaults on a president. Clearly, he was assaulted. I was watching it live. He grabbed his right ear. He was bleeding from the ear, as you just showed. So, where do we go from here? This will be a scorched earth investigation. It already is. There'll be agents coming from every field office in the neighboring areas and in the neighboring states. It'll be all hands on deck. There's not much information coming out right now, but obviously someone has assaulted the president, and of course this hasn't happened to my knowledge since Reagan. Well, actually,
Chris, it's Bill Hemmer. Thank you.
Attempt on President Bush.
Yeah. Thank you, sir, for joining our coverage here. We're going to try and be as patient as we can until we get more information from the authorities who are doing this investigation, and probably from the Trump team as well. And I would not be surprised if at some point, Chris, this evening, at some point, we will see some sort of video or statement from President Trump on camera. Would you be?
I would not be surprised at all, and I think it would be fairly quickly, Bill. You could see him pumping his fist when they first got him up, and as he was getting into the car, much to the dismay of the Secret Service agents. And this is a moment.
Chris, when you think about the rallies that this president has held going back to 2015, when he showed up in Alabama in August of that year, and that massive turnout was there, you knew there was something behind this movement. And you knew it was something that drew thousands and sometimes tens of thousands of people, starting at that rally in 2015 and going through now in the summer of 2024. Chris, what are your concerns when you see tens of thousands of people who have gathered in open fields, and understanding the challenge of keeping an event like that safe, not just once, but time after time after time?
Yeah, Bill, as good as the Secret Service are at what they do, and they are all about planning, reacting. They're good at reacting, but they don't want to be in a situation where someone has close enough access to do harm to our president. So, that's their primary job. And they will tell you they've never fired their gun in defense of a presidential candidate or a president because of how well they plan and how well they use intelligence, which comes from everywhere. But these rallies, these Trump rallies, are a security nightmare. It is nearly impossible if someone is intent on injuring the president, to prevent someone from getting access. And they try to put up concentric, different levels of perimeter access. People, but you can look at these rallies, and it looks like everybody gets in. We have a presidential candidate that wants everybody to get in, and wants them to have access, and that raises the risk.
Chris, thank you for your time. We want to go to an eyewitness now who was there at the rally, Shannon.
Yeah, we've got Pennsylvania Senate candidate David McCormick. He knows what it's like to be in the middle of a heated campaign. But David, I understand you were there. What more can you tell us from your vantage point? And do you know if anybody else was potentially injured?
Yes. Thanks for having me. I'm still at the rally. It's all very chaotic. But I was in the front row. And President Trump had just announced me and had suggested I come up and invited me to come up on the stage. And then he said, no, he'll have him come up in a minute or two. And then there were a number of shots, and the crowd just sort of, went to the ground, and the Secret Service came and, very quickly tackled the president. But there were 7 or 8 shots, and it was hard to tell whether they came from one direction or from 2 different weapons. It wasn't clear. At least I couldn't tell. And then sadly, someone behind me up in the bleachers was definitely wounded. And there was a lot of blood, and, the police came in and helped carry that person out of the stand so they could get the care they needed. I'm not sure if others were injured or not. It was all, as you might imagine, very chaotic. But it was a very scary moment, obviously, because our president and innocent bystanders were under siege.
Yeah, sir, can you tell us how many people had gathered there today? It looked like quite the turnout. And also, can you just take us through what you saw from your perspective? Did it come from your left side or your right side, or where was it in relation to where you were located?
Yeah, I don't, it was an enormous crowd. I had asked a number of law enforcement officers, and they had said something around 15,000. So I don't know if that's an official number, but it was certainly huge. And it just kept coming and coming. It was building throughout the day. It's hard to tell, but at least some of the shots, I was sitting to President Trump's right as he was facing the crowd, and I was in the front row. It felt like some of the shots came from his left side, which would make sense because someone behind me was hit. So it felt like at least some came from that side of the crowd. And as I said, I couldn't tell whether it was one gun or 2, but there were 7 or 8 shots, just one right after another.
Well, and Dave, I mean, you're an Iraq War vet. You have served us in uniform voluntarily, like these law enforcement folks out there today. So it is unmistakable to you that these were gunshots. This was a firearm. Yeah,
it definitely seemed to be the case. I'm no expert on this, but it sounded like a small caliber weapon of some sort. Initially, I thought it might be fireworks or something, but then the succession of the shot, I think it was clearly a weapon, a firearm. And as I said, I couldn't tell whether it was 1 or 2, but clearly this was, from my vantage point, as someone who was there, it seemed very much an attack directed at the president, and a very scary moment.
Sir, can you tell us again about the person you saw who was injured or wounded? Again, man or woman, and what sort of condition did you notice they were in?
You know, it was hard to tell. A number of people sitting around this person. It looked like a man. It was a large person. A number of people sitting around it started to administer first aid, and it looked like he had shirts wrapped around him to try to stem the bleeding. And then some police officers came in and carried him out of the stands, and all of that took a couple minutes. So I was sort of focused on that because it was to my back. Whether there were other people wounded or not, I couldn't tell. Of course, it was an enormous crowd, and the way it was set up, the president was on a podium, but there was a crowd behind him, and he was 360 around him. So once the shots happened, it became it wasn't panic. People didn't panic, but it was very chaotic, and everybody went down to the ground. Everybody was laying on the ground because we weren't sure the shooting was done.
Yeah. Sir, I'm going to ask you a question. Choose to answer it the way you like. Is Donald Trump lucky to be alive right now?
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I mean, again, the facts will come out, and I always am careful when you're in the middle of a crisis. You don't want to draw too many conclusions, but it felt to me like he's very lucky to be alive, and I hope others who were injured are going to survive this. It was a very scary moment.
Sir, thank you for your time. David McCormick is a Republican. He's running for the Senate seat in Pennsylvania, and he was there front row for that incident today. Sir, thank you again for your eyewitness account. Shannon.
Yeah, we want to check in with Lucas Tomlinson. He's with the president in Rehoboth Beach in Delaware. And Lucas, you've gotten a readout that President Biden has been briefed. Anything more from your location?
That's right. Shall I just read from that readout that a White House official just sent out that President Biden has
Real Talk with the RN Diva and Pastor Robert podcast. Now streaming on X and wherever you podcast. Let's go.
The cause of this and the motivations do not actually rear their head again. We already, I received this stuff still from the department. We were already in an increased threat environment for both conventions for different reasons. That increase will be felt over essentially now until November 3rd, if not after. We are now in the moment that a lot of us have been warning on, that it looks like we averted a tragedy. Most people younger than you and me have not experienced a potential assassination. I want to be careful here. Attempt on a candidate or a president, let alone a former president. The democracy, our democracy, we know is fractured, and people have been more prone to utilize violence or the threats of violence in 2024. We are now seeing the results of that. And how we come back from this brink is not at all clear right now. This is a moment and a tragedy, especially if there are other victims, but it is also a signal that all of us have to come together and bring us from this fracturing that leads to this kind of violence and the threats of violence that permeate our democracy. We are heading into a convention week right now with a potential threat or whatever it was right now. We're still going to wait, and we have to be careful about what we say. Donald Trump and the people around him perceive themselves to be under threat, and that's all that matters. That is not legitimate. That is wrong. You hear the screams from the audience. People are terrified, and that is the kind of atmospheres that we are going to be living with. And I don't have a good answer about how we bring it back right now. This is going to be an investigation, but it's larger. It's about our democracy right now.
Yeah, it's really, really a scary, scary moment in American history as we watch all of this unfold. And Andrew McCabe is with us, former Deputy Director of the FBI. Andrew, I assume as a result of this incident, security at all these presidential rallies, whether at the convention in Milwaukee this coming week or at the Democratic convention in Chicago in August, a few weeks down the road, and all these other political rallies, security is going to be heightened dramatically out of an extensive abundance of caution as we watch what's going on. But I'm anxious to get your thought.
No question about it, Wolf. Security will, which is already very high for any sort of event involving a president or a former president, they will elevate that bar even higher now. And a lot of how they think about securing the next round of rallies and gatherings will be informed by what they learned from the investigation that will now take place about this attack. So let's talk about that really quickly. Jonathan was absolutely right that the Secret Service will hold this crime scene and then the FBI will come in and conduct that investigation. I can tell you from my experience running the counterterrorism division, probably the entirety of the Pittsburgh field office is on their way back into the office right now to start that work, as well as the counterterrorism division here at FBI headquarters. And they will start by coursing over that scene with incredible detail to retrieve every single piece of evidence they possibly can find, whether that's fragments of projectiles or blood spatter. They'll look for things that people may have left behind. They'll try to recreate that entire event forensically, which they will do with the assistance of the evidence response team from the Pittsburgh office, and then other assets they'll send in from the region. This will be investigated, I'm sure, as a potential act of terrorism anytime there is a act of violence directed at a political figure. And certainly, a former president is about as high on that list as you can get. That's going to be treated as an act of potential act of terrorism, act of domestic terrorism, as it should be. So there will be no resource or effort spared in figuring out exactly who did this. Now, if they know that already, if they have a shooter who's already been taken into custody or eliminated, that investigation will focus on that person and any network or associates that they might have had, because that's the piece that will tell you what you need to think about and protect from in the rallies and the events that come. You want to see if whoever was involved in this might have been planning other attacks or might have been thinking about other events. And you want to render every piece of intelligence you can out of this investigation to help better protect the former president and the current president and the rest of our political figures going forward. So it's a scary and dark time that we are going into now. The fact that we have this sort of political violence rearing its ugly head again in the United States is incredibly concerning and something every American should take note of.
And we are getting word, Andrew, that the shooter involved in this incident at the Trump rally in Pennsylvania is no longer an immediate threat. That, according to multiple law enforcement sources. We had heard people shouting, "Shooter is down, shooter is down." So it looks like that shooter, and I'm sure they're going to be investigating who this alleged shooter was and is. And as you correctly point out, if he's just an isolated incident or part of some sort of a group that's behind this kind of terror that we're watching right now. So we're watching this very, very closely. This investigation is clearly, Andrew, only just beginning. Evan, you're getting some more information. Yeah, Evan's getting some more information on the
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Pastor Robert L. Carpenter II here on a Saturday evening. Boy, I tell you, I don't know if you can see my shirt says "We need Jesus." We sure do. We sure do. We sure do. If you have not heard yet, breaking news: assassination attempt was made on former President Donald Trump about a few minutes after 6, so about an hour and a half ago, in Butler, Pennsylvania, and he's okay. If you have not seen the clip, I'm going to show it to you right now. One moment. There you go.
And if you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
No.
And then the worst president in the history of our country took over. And look what happened to our country. Probably 20 million people. And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Move his hair. Hold. When you're ready, on you. Ready. Move. Up. Move. Go. Up. Hawkeye's here. You ready?
Okay, we are watching live at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, where former President Trump was speaking on the stage.
Real Talk with the RN Diva Pastor Robert podcast. Now streaming on X and wherever you podcast. Let's go.
They tried to take him off. So to me, as you're trying to figure out if you're okay, what's going on, was he shot, was he wounded? Then we heard him on the microphone, Shannon, saying, let me grab my shoes, as they tried to take him off. So we're just trying to figure out what happened. To me, as you're trying to figure out if you're okay, what's going on, was he shot, was he wounded? Then we heard him on the microphone, Shannon, saying, let me grab my shoes, as they tried to take him off. So we're just trying to figure out what happened. To me, as you're trying to figure out if you're okay, what's going on, was he shot, was he wounded? Then we heard him on the microphone, Shannon, saying, let me grab my shoes, as they tried to take him off.
Honor, that's exactly where I heard him come from.
What did you see, sir? I heard the shots.
Honor, that's exactly where I heard him come from.
What did you see, sir?
I heard the shots. I thought it was firecrackers to begin with. Somebody over there was screaming, "He's been shot, he's been shot." So I made my way over. I said, "I'm an emergency department physician. Let me help you." The guy had spun around, was jammed between the benches. He had a headshot here. There was lots of blood, and he had brain matter there. And so I got him. There's a helicopter coming in to get him. I got people there really helpful. I got
Was
him
there only
up
one
on the
person
bench.
shot that you saw?
Then I did CPR, did chest compressions, as well as I breathed for him. One person. I was the only one that did it.
need to evacuate everybody.
Honor, that's exactly where I heard him come from.
What did you see, sir?
I heard the shots. I thought it was firecrackers to begin with. Somebody over there was screaming, "He's been shot, he's been shot." So I made my way over. I said, "I'm an emergency department physician. Let me help you." The guy had spun around, was jammed between the benches. He had a headshot here. There was lots of blood, and he had brain matter there. And so I got him. There's a helicopter coming in to get him. I got people there really helpful. I got
Was
him
there only
up
one
on the
person
bench.
shot that you saw?
Then I did CPR, did chest compressions, as well as I breathed for him. One person. I was the only one that did it.
need to evacuate everybody.
Honor, that's exactly where I heard him come from.
What did you see, sir?
I heard the shots. I thought it was firecrackers to begin with. Somebody over there was screaming, "He's been shot, he's been shot." So I made my way over. I said, "I'm an emergency department physician. Let me help you." The guy had spun around, was jammed between the benches. He had a headshot here. There was lots of blood, and he had brain matter there. And so I got him. There's a helicopter coming in to get him. I got people there really helpful. I got
Was
him
there only
up
one
on the
person
bench.
shot that you saw?
Then I did CPR, did chest compressions, as well as I breathed for him. One person. I was the only one that did it.
need to evacuate everybody.
Here we go. There you also see that shot him, the shooter, took the shooter out in little or no time at all. Wow. All right. Whew. Let's go back to our CNN coverage.
On air in looking at the stage is the closest ring to the protectee, but that ring radiates out in terms of law enforcement, special agents, private security firms. All of that combined create the security structure of this site. So what we don't know right now is who actually identified that threat in the moment and then neutralized it.
Jonathan, hold on for a
What we
moment.
did here is an immediate.
Hold on for a moment. The Associated Press is now reporting that according to the local DA, the suspected gunman and at least one rally attendee are now dead. Very disturbing information. A local prosecutor says the suspected gunman and at least one attendee are dead. That's a significant development in and of itself right there. The shooter, the suspected gunman, as they're calling him, and one attendee is dead in this incident. Go ahead, Jonathan Wackrow. Finish your thought.
Well, I mean, so it talks about the gravity and the tragedy that just occurred, right? We have a member who attended this rally who is now dead. It talks about the dynamic and unpredictable nature that these threats present. But again, law enforcement trains for this. And Wolf, what I was saying just before that information was we did hear the initial gunfire. Then there was a slight pause, and then you heard rapid gunfire in response. So to me, not just listening to that audio shows that there was a shooter, and then there was some response from law enforcement. And now we heard from Evan that the shooter was neutralized. We heard from the agents on the stage that the shooter was down. So that was a key moment for the agents, part of the shift, to then be able to feel that it was a.
They say the shooter may be a guy named Mark Violets, who uploaded the YouTube video saying justice was coming, identified as the Trump shooter. Mark Violets. He is presumed dead. Let's go back to Lord have mercy. Let's go back to that was CNN. Let's go over to Fox News now. Let's go back to Fox News and see what's going on over there. Wow. This is crazy, 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 crazy. Put your comments down below. Those of you on YouTube, and also those of you on Facebook, put your comments down below. Don't forget the Republican National Convention is next week. And so that's quite a prelude into that. Let's go follow. Here we go. Let's see what Fox News is talking about. And let's go.
Goes on from there for those who are protectors, for those who are still first responders who are now in the middle of this investigation. But again, across the political spectrum, we're hearing with a uniform voice Bill denouncing what has happened today. And as we learn a little bit more about it, we do know the former president is doing just fine.
Okay, we're going to hear from a lot of people as we go throughout the evening. We're just at the very beginning of what will be a significant American story. Paul Morrill joins us, former NYPD inspector. And Paul, welcome to our coverage. Your observations based on your own experience.
Well, first of all, if the reporting is accurate and we do have a victim that has succumbed to his or her wounds, that's just so tragic here. It looked for a while there that the only casualty would be that apparently minor wound to Donald Trump. Now, if the incident is indeed over, starts the backwards scrub, right? You got to figure out how this person was able to do what he or she did. If they did it from inside the perimeter, how that happened. We are getting some reporting, Bill, as you've mentioned, that it looks like it came from outside, might have involved a long gun. So they're going to look at, okay, were those situations secured and why not? But then there's going to be a deeper scrub and a simultaneous investigation here. And that is, did this person leave a footprint? And I would guard against looking on social media and taking viral reporting as accurate. We don't know yet. And as I mentioned earlier, you have to be very circumspect with this stuff. But that said, very often people who do this kind of thing do leave a pretty good footprint. And we need an investigation into how that happened. And let me go even further. That investigation needs to be transparent. We can't have the kind of stuff where we have a transcript that Merrick Garland doesn't want to, or rather a tape that Merrick Garland doesn't want to release. We've been saying on this network that a lot of these groups, Antifa and some of the groups that have been occupying the campuses, et cetera, who appear to be quite radical, we need federal investigations, RICOs and other kind of collusive investigations to take them out and figure out why they're doing, how they're funded, et cetera. And we've got none of that. And, I don't want to start placing blame now. We don't have all the facts. But what I would say is that whatever's done in response to this from the federal authorities, and this will be a federal investigation, That has to be transparent because, you know, there's enough distrust on both sides, and we need to know what went on with this thing and what's going to be going on going forward.
Here goes someone who was there. This is a BBC reporter interviewed somebody who was there who says they saw the shooter outside the perimeter prior to this happening. Let's see what they have to say.
You weren't inside the event, but you were just outside. Tell us what you saw.
So we had a party here all day. You can see behind us the Brinkles Farm and Greenhouse here. We had a party, and we all decided, hey, you know, when we hear Trump up there, we're going to walk up through the field, stand by the trees out there under the shade, and watch and listen to the rally. Right? We couldn't see him, but we could hear him. So we walked up, and probably 5 to 7 minutes of Trump speaking. I'm estimating here. I have no idea, you know. But we noticed a guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us, 50 feet away from us. So we're standing there, and, you know, we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle. We could clearly see him with a rifle. Absolutely. We're pointing at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey, man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police were like, huh, what? You know, like they didn't know what was going on. You know, we're like, hey, right here on the roof. We can see him from right here. We see him. You know, he's crawling. And next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him for, 2 or 3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof, just standing there like this. And next thing you know, 5 shots rang out.
So you're certain that the shots came from that guy on the roof?
100%. 100%.
And he was up there for a couple of minutes.
He was up there.
You saw him up there for a couple of minutes.
Absolutely. At least 3 to 4 minutes.
And you were telling the police and the Secret Service?
We were telling the police. We were pointing at them for the Secret Service, who were looking at us from the top of the barn. They were looking at us the whole time when we were standing by that tree.
Could they see
binoculars?
Could they see him?
Probably not, because the roof, the way the slope went, he was behind where they could see. But why is there not Secret Service on all of these roofs here? I mean, this is not a big place.
Did you see, I mean, obviously everyone, when the shooting started, everyone was very panicked. Did you see what happened to him at all?
Oh, yeah, they blew his head off.
Okay, sorry.
Secret Service blew his head off.
Okay, just be careful because we don't quite know who's watching, but you're pretty sure they shot the guy?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
Yep.
You saw that happen?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And did you see them go up to him afterwards, or?
They crawled up on the roof. They had their guns pointed at him, make sure he was dead. He was dead, and that was it. It was over.
It's incredibly shocking.
The guy was on the roof right there. You can see the white roof right there.
Did you get a look at him? Could you?
No, other than he was in muted colors, tan type clothing. We saw the rifle flinging around as he was trying to crawl. I mean, we saw the rifle, 100%.
Do you know about guns? Do you know what kind of weapon it was?
Oh, I absolutely know about guns, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it was a rifle of some sort. I wouldn't know, I wasn't close enough to read the label on it, but it was a rifle of some sort. Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you process what you've just seen?
I don't know what to say, man. All I'll tell you is, if I walked up close to there with anything that Secret Service considered a problem, I wouldn't be standing here talking to you right now. But I don't know why a guy who we're standing there pointing out to police and Secret Service is crawling up the roof. Yes, right there by that tree. We were outside the security perimeter. But my question is, there's only a few buildings around here. Why is Secret Service not on every building here?
Well, there's a whole bunch of questions I think that are going to come.
There's a whole bunch of questions.
Yeah.
Yes, she was right in front of me. She kept going back and forth right in front of me. Yes.
Tell us about her.
I mean, nice horse, nice lady running with a flag. Seemed very, patriotic.
But what's the significance of her?
No, he asked me if I saw a horse.
Okay. All right, well, listen, I'm sorry you had to witness that. That was a terrible thing. And you should stay safe with your family and gotcha. Yourself. Thanks for your time.
All right, thank you so much. That was from the BBC reporting. There was an eyewitness who saw what was happening there. Now let's go to another scene here. Yeah, thank you. There we go. Let's go to another scene. This is apparently this is graphic, so real discretion is advised. An innocent woman shot and killed a Trump rally today. Let's set somebody behind her. Here is the footage again. Fair warning. We want to make sure you know that it's gonna be a little graphic. All right, let's go for it.
Are you guys okay? Everybody down!
You see there now. Wow. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
You have to say to yourself, we need to know with clarity, because that's how the conspiracy theories start. And we've had enough of those.
Mm-hmm. Paul, thank you. Got a statement now from the former president, Barack Obama. It reads this way: there is absolutely no place for political violence in our democracy. Although we don't yet know exactly what happened, we should all be relieved that former President Trump was not seriously hurt, and use this moment to recommit ourselves to civility and respect in our politics. Michelle and I are wishing him a quick recovery. End quote. Shannon.
Let's go check in with Alexis McAdams again. She's been there on the ground as all of this occurred and has talked to a number of witnesses and people who I'm sure, Alexis, are still in a bit of a state of shock.
Yeah, and that includes who we're talking to right now, Blake, who you were inside. We actually talked with him, Shannon, earlier when you were doing special coverage. You were up on the stage, we grabbed you up, and then we all got pushed out by Secret Service. But walk me through what happened. You were really close.
That's the
you're a
man. He's at
delegate
every
for former President Trump,
rally.
so you were pretty close to that stage. What'd you hear?
Well, I was listening to him. He was talking, and I think he had the slide up on the big screen about how immigration has increased under Biden. And as I was watching him, I heard what I thought were just a noise. I was hoping it was a joke. I didn't know if it was fireworks or what. It seemed to be coming from my left. So I turned to my left, and I'm just going to turn this off here. All right, no, let's let it go. Sorry. Turned to my left when I heard the sound and didn't see anything when I looked back towards the president, the Secret Service was actively tackling him to the ground. And at that point, I began to hear some other sounds. And I said, okay, this is gunfire. And I think then I did duck down. I didn't dive on the ground, but I did duck down. And then it seemed like it stopped. And then I got up and was just trying to pay attention to what had happened to the president.
When he came back up before he gave that fist pump and then was taken off the stage, it looked like he possibly had some blood, as you mentioned too before, right on his ear. I mean, what did you exactly see and how much blood did you see?
Not a lot. I mean, kind of like where maybe you cut your head. And it did not seem to be coming from his ear. It seemed to be coming from above his ear. But it could have been he could have been tackled in such a way that he cut himself. It could be Secret Service agents' blood on their hands that got transferred to him. I didn't know what it was, but it didn't appear to be overly serious when taken in combination with his defiant attitude and his fist pump. Yeah, I think he wanted to let us know he was all right.
How shocked were you? I mean, you're getting ready to go to the RNC. I mean, everyone's mind was on the excitement at that rally, and then you hear these pops, and it's, what a lot of people is their biggest fear when they come to a big event like this.
Well, I can't say it's one of mine. I as separated as we are politically in this country, I am not one who thinks that we're on the verge of hostilities. I didn't think that I would ever see anything like this happen. And even like my initial reaction was, it's a joke, it's a prank. And it was only when I saw the actions being taken by the Secret Service that it became apparent that it wasn't.
They were able to move in pretty quickly. You could see the snipers up on the roof. At this point, we're hearing that the possible, suspect or person was killed, and then a person also that was at the rally was killed.
I'm sorry about one. I'm not sorry about the other. Tremendous wake-up call for our country. We can't. This can't be condoned. It can't be tolerated. And we have a very open society. We have a very open political discourse. It should never include violence. Never. Any groups that espouse violence, there should be no tolerance for it.
Last thing, when people were moving out before the Secret Service cleared us out too, did you talk to anybody and kind of what are people out here saying? Are they nervous? Are they scared?
Very many people were upset. The whole gamut of emotions, from being upset to prayer, to concern, to anger, to shock. I think I saw it all.
Are you going to the RNC still?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I fully expect to see President Trump on the stage on Thursday accepting the nomination.
Okay, thank you for talking to us. I'm glad you're okay. So that's what we're hearing out here on the ground, but definitely many people are still shaken up, as you can expect, trying to figure out what happened. And we also have the mayor,
Alexis,
Bill,
thank you.
if you guys want me to talk with him right now. The mayor, I know you guys were trying to get him earlier.
Yeah,
I think they were talking to you on the phone.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from him.
All right, so tell me, you were up on the stage. You were near the former president. What happened?
I was actually with the president about 15, 20 minutes before that awful thing occurred. And my wife and I, my family were seated front row. I just left the stage, and obviously a complete 180. We all came in here with smiles and hope for the future. And what's happened today, I'm speechless over. All I can think of right now is that this is representative of the vitriol and the hate that a lot of people in the United States seem to have for people with conservative ideals and principles behind them. And I'm just sorry that it's come to that. And I'm sorry that it's come to that here in Butler County.
Where were you standing when the former president ended up hitting the ground there, right behind that podium?
Was Donald's there? I was standing right on the barrier to the left of the stage, front row. And at first I heard that first crack. I started to look around. I thought couldn't possibly have been around. I thought for sure it might have been a firecracker. But I looked at my wife, who's a state police officer. I pushed her down to the ground. On the second one, it sounded to me like it might have been a 22 round or something similar to it. I asked her if she thought it sounded like a 22. She said yes. We just yelled for everybody to get down on the ground and to stay down to allow the Secret Service and law enforcement to do what it is they had to do. We weren't really quite sure what was happening. And unfortunately, just a few feet behind me, there was an unfortunate individual who lost his life to this maniac.
Did you see the person who was shot?
I did. I did see some of that. Of course, I didn't see the shot itself. But I did.
So you turn around, so you push your wife down, you look around for your family, you take cover yourself, you see the president get back up, give that fist pump, you turn around and you see somebody in the crowd had been shot.
They were shot, and they were on the bleachers, and it was just a really sad thing to witness. And unfortunately, I understand that individual lost their life.
Was it a man? Was it a woman? What did you see?
From what I saw, was that there was a gentleman there who was shot, and very sad just to witness that. I can't think or imagine what his friends and family must be feeling right now, thinking he was coming here to come and enjoy a day with fellow Republicans, and would end up losing his life. And my thoughts and my prayers go out to his family.
You know, all the local officials. I mean, this was federal, state, local. We're all out here responding to this, and they responded quick. Have you heard from any of your partners in the law enforcement area here in Butler County, and what are they saying?
I've heard from a couple individuals, but I just want to say, unfortunately, this time I don't want to comment on anything I might have heard, because I don't want anything to be shared that might make it more difficult for law enforcement professionals to get to the bottom of it, and I certainly don't want to make their job any harder. So, at this time, I'm going to say that I know everything that you know, ma'am, and we'll keep it at that.
And then, but you are hearing that it was definitely gunshots that were fired.
That's what I'm hearing, and from my own experience, and I did spend some time in the Marine Corps. My wife is a police officer. My father-in-law is a retired police officer. My brother-in-law is a police officer. We know the sound of gunfire when we see it, and from what I witnessed and the blood on the ground, it seems that certainly is the case, and it's just a disgusting thing to have had to happen today.
This was a huge day for you. It was the mayor of a tiny area here to have a big rally in Butler County. You were excited to have the former president out here. Did you get to talk to him much?
I did. I got to spend a few minutes with him, and I was elated just to have been able to talk with him. My wife and I, again, just 15-20 minutes before the shots were fired, and we had a pleasant conversation, and he was kind enough to even say that I watched you and you did a good job, and I thought, wow, how great that was, that feeling. And then of course the feeling now is indescribable, as I'm feeling something completely opposite from what it was that we felt in that tent with him, and the smile that was on his face turned to chaos.
Of Butler, Pennsylvania, we do have a statement from former President Barack Obama. I'll read that. She just tweeted, "There's absolutely no place for political violence in our democracy. Although we don't know yet exactly what happened, we should all be relieved that former President Trump wasn't seriously hurt, and use this moment to recommit ourselves to civility and respect in our politics. Michelle and I are wishing him a quick recovery." All right. That's from former President Barack Obama. Let's go back to Fox News. Live coverage. Assassination attempt on Donald Trump.
You could be. The individual who was shot was in the bleachers about 15, 20 feet behind me. So, again, I was scanning the crowd and trying to figure out if shots were coming from within or without. I'm inclined to believe that it was from outside, but I don't want you to hold me to that, of course, because there was just so much going on right there.
Still developing. That area where the motorcade pulled up behind, and you were in that area when you were greeting the former president, but it looked like there was some space, right? It's like a neighborhood surrounding this. So we saw what it looked like inside the rally. We saw the stage, we saw the bleachers, we saw the thousands of people. But talk to me about kind of what's outside, since you know the area. I mean, is it a neighborhood, and could people have driven up pretty close?
And with the right conditions, be able to reach out and touch somebody in a bad way. So whoever this individual was or individuals were, I'm not really quite sure, because I haven't heard anything as far as what exactly had happened. But all I know is yes, I mean, it's certainly possible. But I just never would have thought that it would be possible here in our home. Butler County is very much so Trump country. We adore the president. He was very good to us during his tenure in office, and I never would have imagined that him coming here to Butler County would have meant that he would have had to experience this. And I'm glad that the president's safe. I heard that he's doing okay now. But again, I just want to go back to that individual who lost their life today. That individual came here looking for hope and inspiration in this upcoming cycle, and unfortunately is going to be with us. So I just hope the world sees what happened here today and is inspired to action. And when I say into action, I mean to prayer, to vote, of course, to bring God back into our society here, because this is the act of a godless society that we saw today.
Thank you for talking to us, Mayor. I'm glad that you're okay. Glad your family's okay. Unfortunately, as you just heard, one person who was at that rally confirmed dead, according to local officials. We're still trying to figure out exactly what all played out here.
All right, Alexis, thank you so much for all that on the ground coverage and with the witnesses there. Bill, and you and I, as I remember years ago, were doing the morning show the morning that Congressman Steve Scalise was shot. And that horrific situation and what happened there on that ball field as they were practicing. He's got a post now on X saying, praying for President Donald Trump. There is never any place for political violence, and he would know it better than anyone would. And thank God he's had a full recovery. It seems like President Trump is in a much different situation, by all accounts doing fine, defiantly raising his fist and wanting to let that crowd know he was just fine as he was leaving, as we continue to get reaction pouring in, Bill.
So before that Butler, Pennsylvania rally was underway, the president left his home in Mar-a-Lago, Florida. Our own Harris Faulkner was with him, and Harris sent this message to us and a couple pictures that I'm in West Palm. Spent the day at Mar-a-Lago with President Trump. Was with him minutes before he left for PA. He was so excited to see the voters in Butler, PA. He joked and told me our extended interview, quote, will be a ratings grabber. Please play it for the people, Harris, end quote. Harris concludes by saying, pray for our nation's 45th president of the United States. More reaction to Gabby Giffords was a Democratic congresswoman from Arizona. She went home for a Saturday morning appearance in Tucson, Arizona, when she was shot in the face. And Gabby Giffords survived. She was always one of these members of Congress who was always willing to talk about the issues and come on the air and debate them. And she always did it with a smile. And then later with the now Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona, her statement is this: political violence is terrifying. I know. I'm holding former President Trump and all those affected by today's indefensible act of violence in my heart. Political violence is un-American and is never acceptable. Never. Shannon.
So we're told now, of course, this is a federal investigation, that the U.S. Secret Service is handling this, and all of our questions about what happened there today go to them. I believe Congressman Byron Donalds, a Republican out of Florida, is with us. Congressman, your thoughts at this moment we have reached in our political climate, so inflamed, and what appears to be an attempt to take out a former president?
My first thoughts are, relieved and grateful that President Trump is okay. My second thoughts are that this violence in our politics has got to end. I mean, I know that we talk about these issues in inflamed tones, but there's no excuse for violence trying to assassinate a president, former president, elected official. There's no place for that whatsoever. And I know the Secret Service is going to do everything they can to continue to protect President Trump.
Keep the B-roll going here just for a moment here. Fox News actually will probably switch over to back over to CNN. Yeah, but back on, okay, yeah. What blows my mind is that a lot of people, I'm looking at comments on Facebook right now, and there are a lot of people that are saying it's staged. Nobody really got killed. Nobody really got hurt. That is when they've already confirmed the shooter's dead, and the person that was sitting behind him on the stage, attendee, was dead. People there have blood all over them. But some people are saying it was staged. Wow. Boy, we've lost everything. I mean, you don't have to like the guy, but to think that, I mean, you saw the blood, so, I mean, okay. Let's go back to Wolf Spencer. Wow. And Anderson Cooper with CNN.
What's going on?
Yeah, Wolf, just 8:07 o'clock here on the East Coast, just after 8 p.m. in New York, at the end of a deeply traumatic day. Shots fired at Donald Trump, the former president and presumptive 2024 Republican nominee, at his rally, his final rally before Monday's convention in Milwaukee. The suspected gunman is dead, and so is at least one person at the rally.
And Anderson, here in Washington, the U.S. Secret Service and other federal agencies are now clearly in crisis mode, investigating as a possible assassination attempt of the former president of the United States. What happened at 11 minutes past 6 in Butler, Pennsylvania, just north of Pittsburgh? Awful situation indeed, very scary and very traumatic.
Yeah, the former president had just begun his remarks when the shooting began. I want to show you the video from that moment now until Mr. Trump was taken off stage.
Oh, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
How could you think that was fake? I don't know.
Hold. When you're ready, on you. Ready? Move. Up. Move. Go. Hawkeye's here. Hawkeye's here. Move it to the stand. There, get ready. There, get ready. You ready? Are we good? Shooter's down. Are we good to move? We're clear. We're clear. Let me get my shoes. I got you, sir. Let me get my shoes, sir. Hold on in your head, buddy. So we gotta move to the bus. Let me get my shoes. Okay, my shoes down. What's up?
Couple of things about that video. You could hear audio during that time. Most of that was the Secret Service talking to one another and to the former president. You could also hear some words from the former president. Initially, when the Secret Service, you saw the former president after the first few shots touch his right ear. Then the Secret Service rushed, realizing what was happening, rushed to cover him. They held him down on the ground as there were more shots. It was once you heard some Secret Service agents saying, what are we doing? Where are we going? Then you heard them saying that the shooter was down. We are clear. Meaning the shooter had been neutralized. They then say, you then hear the former president saying, let me get my shoes. Apparently his shoes may have been knocked off as they knocked him to the ground. And then you hear at some point the former president saying, wait. And that's when you see him raise his fist and mouth to the crowd. It seemed the words fight. He was then whisked off again, raising his fist. The former president has blood on his ear and the side of his head when he was taken away. He was examined at a local hospital and, according to his campaign, is fine. But again, at least one person who came to see the former president has been killed. So is the suspected gunman shot by the Secret Service. Another attendee, we believe, has been seriously wounded. Now, we've just gotten this statement from President Biden. He has said, quote, I have been briefed on the shooting at Donald Trump's rally in Pennsylvania. I'm grateful to hear that he's safe and doing well. I'm praying for him and his family and for all those who were at the rally as we await further information. Jill and I are grateful to the Secret Service for getting him to safety. There's no place for this kind of violence in America. We must unite as one nation to condemn it. Now, the president is expected to speak on camera shortly. We will bring it to you live. We've just gotten a 2-minute warning on that, so we'll bring you that. As we wait, I want to bring in CNN's Evan Perez with the latest information about the shooter. Evan, what are you learning?
Well, Anderson, this is clearly now being investigated by the federal law enforcement, by the Secret Service and the FBI and other agencies as a attempted assassination, possible attempted assassination of the former president. And so that's what is guiding this investigation now as we speak.
All right, we've got the 2-minute warning. The 2-minute warning. We've got the 2-minute warning. Trump is going to make a statement. And also, he was scheduled to be at a UFC fight tonight. And he's still planning on going. Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. He doesn't stop, does he? He doesn't stop. He doesn't stop. Anyway, we got about another minute before former President Trump will make a statement. President Joe Biden him and Jill did make a statement, release a statement. I'm trying to find it. I think they just read it on CNN, but we want to read it ourselves if we have it. The gunman has been killed. Wow. Okay, hold on. This is Biden now. Come on, here we go.
Not condone this. And so I want to thank the Secret Service and all the agencies, including the state agencies that have been engaged in making sure that people and we have more detail to come relative to other people maybe injured in the audience. I don't have all that detail. We'll make that available to you. I may be able to come back a little later tonight, but we'll put out a statement if I'm not able to if it's not convenient for you all. But the bottom line is, the Trump rally was a rally that he should have been able to be conducted peacefully without any problem. But the idea that there's political violence or violence in America like this is just unheard of. It's just not appropriate. And everybody must condemn it. Everybody. I'll keep you informed, and if I'm able to speak to Donald, I'll let you know that as well. But so far, it appears he's doing well, number one. Number two, that there's thoroughly investigating what happened to anyone else in the audience. We have some reports, but not final reports. And every agency in the federal government, I'm going back to my phone to speak with the federal agencies that are being put together again to give me an updated briefing. Has anything happened? They learned any more in the last couple hours. So thank you very much, and I hope I get to speak to them tonight, and I'll get to back to you if I do. Okay.
Mr. President, do you think this was an assassination?
Do we have that?
I don't know enough to. I have an opinion, but I don't have any facts. So I want to make sure we have all the facts before I make any more comments. Thank you.
Are you worried, President, with the security failing, Mr. President?
So President Biden speaking back with CNN's Evan Perez. Evan, just in terms of the investigation, who's in lead? Is it the Secret Service that is the lead agent?
All right, we got one comment here. You can put your comments down below. Ruben Lamone, hope I'm saying that right. Live on Facebook, says you asked how anyone could think it's fake. Easy Trump helped key the term fake news. He's also been known to lie a lot. The disbelief and trust is rampant. Many know that faking an attack will get him more support. So that's why people think it's staged. If it happened to Biden, people would think the same thing. That's Ruben Lamont. Thank you for your comment there on Facebook. Let's go back live to CNN. Put your comments down below. We'll read them on the line. Live.
We'll assume the larger investigation, working hand in glove with the Secret Service. They're going to bring in their crisis management team, their critical incident response group. A lot of FBI resources are heading to meet the agents from the Pittsburgh field office because they have to go about finding out who is this dead gunman, where does he live, get a search warrant for that residence, get a search warrant for all his phones, electronics, accounts. They've got to delve into him and figure out, is he acting alone first and foremost?
Hey, John,
was he working with others?
John, I'm going to come back to you shortly. I have on the phone right now the Butler County District Attorney, Richard Goldinger. Mr. District Attorney, I'm sorry, we're talking in these circumstances. Can you tell us anything you know about what happened, what is happening right now?
Well, thanks for having me, Anderson.
I don't know a whole lot more than what has already been reported. I can confirm that there is one spectator that has passed away. There is a second that is in serious condition that was taken to a local hospital, and that the shooter is dead.
And is it clear to you the exact location of where the shooter was, how he was able to get a shot? I mean, it doesn't seem that he would have gone through the magnetometers, obviously.
No, he was outside of the grounds, so to speak. So, quite frankly, I don't know how he would have gotten to the location where he was, but he was outside the grounds, and I think that's something that we're going to have to figure out how he got there.
In terms of the scene right now, how many people are still on scene? It's obviously an active crime scene, but I know there's a lot of rally attendees. It's hard to get everybody out of there.
Yeah, it's chaos. I mean, I have been told it is chaos, and it's just I can't even give you a number of people that are there, but it's really crazy right now.
And you don't have any information on the identity of the alleged shooter?
I have not been given any of that information yet, and I'm not sure that we know that at this point.
When you saw this, what did you think? I mean, this is an act like this is not something we have seen in a long time in this country.
I was saying we haven't seen this since Reagan in 1980, and it's mind blowing. Maybe we got a little lackadaisical about it, that this wouldn't happen to a president or a former president, but it's crazy. And I mean, sadly, maybe it's just the state of our current political situation, but I mean, you just wouldn't even think it would happen, especially in where I live in Butler County. You would not expect this.
Can you talk a little bit about Butler County? I know it's, I'm not sure how north of Pittsburgh it is, but can you just talk a little bit about the community?
Sure. So, I mean, we are literally the county directly north of Allegheny County, which is where Pittsburgh is situated. We are about 65% Republicans. It is partially rural. So it used to be a farming community, but now Pittsburgh has moved north. We have some more, I call it urban sprawl, so to speak, in the southern part of our county. So it's pretty diverse in that sense.
Richard Goldinger, I appreciate your time. And again, I'm sorry it's under these circumstances. We'll continue to check in with you. Thank you. Wolf?
Thank you, Anderson.
Anderson, thank you. The Pennsylvania Republican Senate candidate, David McCormick, was there at this rally in Pennsylvania. He's an eyewitness to what had unfolded. He's joining us right now. David, thank you so much for joining us. Give us your eyewitness account of what you saw, what you heard, and what you believe happened.
Yeah, well, thank you, Wolf. I was in the front row, so the president was speaking out to the crowd. Looked like a big crowd. I think I was told 15,000 or so, and I was seated to his right in the front row. And he had actually just announced me and invited me up to the stage, and then said, "No, I'll have you come up in a few minutes." And about a minute or so after that, we heard a series of shots. I think 7 or 8 shots. It was just pop, pop, pop. I was a former Army guy. They sounded like a small caliber weapon, but obviously I'm not sure about that. And it was like all of a sudden just chaos. The Secret Service immediately covered the president, jumped on top of him, and the crowd obviously all went immediately to the ground, to people on their knees or laying down on the ground. And then the president got up and sort of was surrounded by the Secret Service. And you see this, you could see him just with a little bit of blood on him, and his sort of fist.
Now streaming on X and wherever you podcast. Let's go.
All right. Welcome back to live coverage here at the RCTV Network. This is Pastor Robert L. Carpenter II here. Whew, what a day, what an evening. It is Saturday, July 13th, is about 8:23 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. And in Butler, Pennsylvania, about 6:11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. An assassination attempt was made by President Trump at one of his rallies. The shooter was quickly identified and shot and killed. He was on a rooftop across the street outside the perimeter. And also there was somebody right behind President Trump and the bleachers behind him that was killed, and another person that was seriously injured. We have statements from President Joe Biden, just put out a statement, and also did a short presser. Also, President Barack Obama. Also, Michelle put out a statement, and many, many others have as well. You can put your comments down below, but now we're going to get the inimitable, the inevitable, controversial Alex Jones. Let's see what he has to say.
Ladies and gentlemen, I told you that we're not in normal times. World War III, nuclear war is this close. They just fired 5 shots at Trump and hit him in the side of the head. And the media's like, oh, big deal. He survived an assassination attempt. This is crazy town. Biden is a complete puppet. The New World Order is melting down everywhere. And I believe they're getting ready to kill Biden and blame it on a Trump supporter. I've been saying that for over a year. So President Trump in Pennsylvania up there gets shot at, gets hit in the side of the head, survives. That image of him up there with the blood on his face, defiant, is incredible. And now the deep state that's committed all these crimes and opened the borders and human trafficked and started World War III, they are so desperate, they're going to go for broke. And I've told Trump, I've told his campaign, you've got to be more careful. We got to pray for President Trump right now. This is such a dangerous time. I'm in Northern California with what would be a huge story breaking tomorrow, and it's still going to break. Massive story we're working on right now, okay? Secret mission. And it will still break it. But, ladies and gentlemen, this attempted assassination of Trump means we're not in Kansas anymore. And now they've tried to kill him with a gun. They're going to try to poison him. So Trump, inside circle, listen to me. And I know you've listened before. You've had the Secret Service call me. I've briefed them on stuff. Listen to me. They're going to try to poison him now. This blew up in their face. They failed. They fired 5 shots. They killed 2 people, maybe 3. Of course, they got rid of the shooter, so they can't find out who that was. This means the New World Order is going for broke. They have nothing to lose now. Pray for America. Pray for Trump. Pray for the free press. Pray for truth. And know with, 112 days from the election now? Anything is possible right now. Deep state, escalation of war with Russia, China, Taiwan, it's all on the table. False flag terror attacks, blame it on Trump, his supporters, they've been hyping that. We need to pray right now for mass awakening and mass discernment because America is fighting for its life. I'm about to do a live show as soon as the crew can get into the office. I just got off an airplane, just got here to where I was staying. I'm going to do a live show at Infowars.com/show, band.video, and real Alex Jones. I'm collecting all the notes, all the videos. We'll be live in the next 30 minutes to an hour at Infowars.com/show, band.video, and real Alex Jones on X. But pray for President Trump. He needs to get out there and speak immediately about this. He's got to be very, very careful, obviously, in the future. But again, pray for Trump, pray for America. The deep state has overplayed their hand. They're completely screwed, which means they're going to strike back big time.
There would have been over a dozen members of Congress killed that day. But God was there too. There were miracles that happened that day, and a lot of prayer, a lot of miracles. And I know there are prayers going out right now to Donald Trump. And look, just remember, that night Donald Trump came to the hospital to check on me and just to console my family. And that was his birthday. He left a birthday party to come and check on me, and just the kind of person he is. I texted him a little while ago because he's a special man. He's a strong man. I know that. But he's a caring person. He cares about people. He cares about this country. And, I know there are a lot of prayers going out to him right now, as well as to the families of those who were also injured and killed.
Just one more question to you, sir. And thank you for being with us here. The baseball game was played among Democrats and Republicans. And as I recall, that was a moment of bipartisanship that Americans rarely see. And it's far too early to know the impact of a moment like this, but many have called to lower the temperature already. What's your sense about where that goes during an election season?
Yeah, I think, when you hear all these calls and, you've been hearing it for months, one person who's just unhinged to hear that and go act on it and think that that's their signal to go take somebody out. And we saw it in the case with the baseball shooting with me. And, it was somebody who was hearing far left rhetoric that was it was over the top, and he acted on it. And, in this case, we'll find out more information. We don't need to jump to conclusions, but I think we can all say it would be good if the rhetoric just gets dialed down. Let's focus on the issues that people care about. This is a great country. This is the greatest country in the history of the world. But we have problems, and let's talk about those problems, how to fix those problems. And I think that's where most Americans want to be. And let's have a next few months focus on how we get this country back on track. And I think that would be better for all of us.
Sir, thank you. Steve Scalise, the Republican from Louisiana. Really appreciate your input. Thank you, sir. We're going to bring in Brett Baer for a moment here. Brett's about to get on a plane. Before I do, however, I just received a text from the Trump family, and I'm going to read it word for word because it's not that long. It's Eric Trump, the son of Donald Trump, who says, my question was, how's dad? His answer was, toughest guy I've ever met. That from the medical facility in Pennsylvania. I want to bring in our colleague, Brett Baer. Before you jump on that plane, Brett, you're going to come to a city that's going to be kind of different for this convention, starting now.
Yeah, Bill, I'm on the plane now, and I've reached out to the campaign. A number of people in Trump world all are saying good signs about the former president. That message you just got from Eric matches some of mine that I've received, which is great news. It is an indelible image now, that picture of him with his fist in the air with the bloody ear and face. I want to just talk for 1 second about some of the other reporting, and we're trying to dig this out. But Pennsylvania State Police, through a number of news organizations, has sources saying that one of the shots may have hit the teleprompter and that a glass shard may have hit the former president's ear. We don't know that to be a fact yet, but that is what Pennsylvania State Police have been telling some reporters there on the ground. The other thing is, obviously, Martha mentioned this earlier, the shooter, it looked like this person was on top of this building. There were eyewitnesses that said that they thought that that's where the shots were coming from and that person was dead on the building. We're trying to figure all of that out with the video that surfaced online. But what's important for people to realize is that in these moments, sometimes online goes way faster than where authorities are or what is true. So we have to try to find out real facts from real folks, and that's what we're doing right now.
Travel well, okay? We'll see you real soon. Brett Baer with us as he gets, you bet, on his way to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Shannon.
Yeah, okay. Do we want to start from the beginning to play this video for folks who have not seen it from the start? I believe we're going to get that racked up for you so you can watch the moments as we were all sitting here watching this live. We're going to give it to you as it went down. You can see as President Trump touches his ear, and it all goes from there. Let's watch.
Take a look at what happened.
Move his spare. Hold. When you're ready. On you. Ready. Move. Up. Move. Go. Up. Hawkeye's here. Hawkeye's here. Move it to the spare. Spare, get ready. Spare, get ready. You ready? Shooters down. Shooters down. Are we good? Shooters down. Shooters down. Are we good to move? Shooters down. We're good to move. We're clear. Let's clear. Move. Let's move. We're clear. Come on.
Let me get my shoes.
I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes.
Hold on, your head is bloody.
So we got to move to the bus. Let me get my shoes. Okay, my shoes down. Watch out. Wait.
Honestly, it was so unbelievable. I didn't, this is like,
Take a look.
Right, you've watched there the recap of what happened as President Trump was under attack, essentially there at this rally in Pennsylvania. We are told that the shooter is dead. We are told by local authorities there in Butler, Pennsylvania, also that there is another person who's been a fatality in this case, others who are potentially injured as well. But you saw President Trump wanting to send the signal, bloodied there and being dragged out by his Secret Service, that he was okay. His fist pumping in the air, letting folks know that he was not going down. He had said to the Secret Service, let me get my shoes. And he wanted to walk out there as they were trying to bundle and get him out, which is their job. They got that cordon around him. And what probably slowed them down, Bill, was him wanting to make sure that people knew he was okay.
Shannon, you were sitting here when the rally began and you tossed to it live on the air. And you described it to me as about happening, 5 minutes into his address. And I think for all of us, frankly, when we hear the news and then we see it and we watch it, yeah, it's stunning. But when the news starts to settle in and you realize that that was so close to hitting the right temple on the former president's head, and that could have been a kill shot. And there were some reports suggesting that the shooter was outside the perimeter where this rally was being held. We haven't confirmed that. Some people talking about him being on top of a rooftop. Maybe that's true, but the investigation is going to play out when it plays out. And we'll get that information to you as quickly as we can, but not before we confirm it ourselves. There's a lot of stuff flying around social media. As you can imagine, X travels fast. Okay, so we'll try and keep up as best we can. But to help try and answer some of these questions, retired ATF Deputy Assistant Director Peter Forcelli is with us now. And sir, thank you for your time and good evening to you. You have watched the video. Can you take us through what you see in that 2-minute period?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Bill. Yeah, look, President Trump is incredibly lucky to be alive. Had that bullet been a couple inches to the right, to the right, it would have taken his life, I have no doubt. Keep in mind, the bullet travels faster than sound. So he felt that injury before he would have heard that first shot go off. Obviously, he dropped to the ground. The Secret Service did a phenomenal job of surrounding him. And think of the courage that takes, too, for these Secret Service agents to put themselves between a gunman who is shooting at the president and the president. And then if you notice, while he's down on the ground, you heard one of the Secret Service operators say the shooter is down. And it's at that point where they start to stand former President Trump up, but still maintaining a perimeter around him to protect him just in the event, I would imagine, there was another shooter. But terrifying. It's very sad that someone lost their life there. Incredibly lucky that President Trump did not lose his. And Secret Service did a phenomenal job. Again, not just in protecting the president, but in eliminating a threat rather quickly. So it could have been a much worse result, especially in such a crowd where other people could have been injured. Right. So we got off lucky, hate to say.
Yeah, I mean, Peter, how tough is it with these large political rallies, in this case, often outside, thousands of people there? How tough is it? What kind of a headache, sort of a nightmare is it for law enforcement trying to get that scene completely sanitized, at least as close as
I'm up at a family reunion at our ranch, and I heard the news about the attempted assassination on President Trump. Thank God that he wasn't mortally hit or hit worse than he was. That is a miracle that it grazed his face another inch and he would have probably not been with us. So praise God for that. My family and I were up here at the family reunion, like I said, and we spent a few minutes catching up on the news. Everybody came in, and there's probably 30 of us up here. And we had talked politics earlier today, and not all of us agree on politics. And the message I tried to deliver was, it's about principles. It's not about the people. It's about principles. And what principles are we fighting for? And our principles are our founding principles of freedom of speech and freedom of expression. And yes, the Second Amendment, even though this was a gunman, you will not be hearing Trump supporters calling for bans on guns. Instead, calling for justice to be done equally. And I immediately picked up the phone and called the president and his family and left my family's heartfelt concern for him and for our republic. And would ask that you would continue to pray for him and the country, that this might be our bottom, that this might be the worst thing that happens before we all stand up and say enough of this insanity. What do you expect is going to happen when you tell half the country that they're horrible racist monsters, and then the other half of the country that this guy's worse than Hitler? What do you think is going to happen? And I'm addressing not the American people, but the media. What do you think is going to happen? I've been saying for many years that we are repeating the past, and we are repeating the year 1968. The Democrats are going to Chicago in about a month for their, I don't even know what they're going to be doing. And President Trump will be at the RNC soon. And I pray for peace. I pray that Donald Trump will truly be a model, one that we saw, and this is really hard. I don't know if I could do it, but be the model that Pope John Paul was when he was shot, and not harbor vengeance or viciousness or any kind of anger towards the shooter, but will instead forgive the shooter and demand justice for the shooter. And maybe out of this, we can come together a little more. I don't know. And please, please, please guard your heart. Guard your feelings and your emotions. guard yourself against those who will use this for manipulation, will use this for further conspiracy theories. I am counting the minutes before they start to say that this was a right-wing shooter that was just trying to make Donald Trump, a sympathetic candidate. I know that will be said by some oaf. Well, what an expert shot that was. You're wrong by an inch, and we lose another president. RFK should also have Secret Service protection. I don't know why the Biden administration won't give him that. But the best speech I've ever heard given was by RFK Sr. On the day that Martin Luther King was killed. RFK needed to go tell a big rally. I'm trying to remember where it was, maybe Chicago, I can't remember, but nobody knew. It wasn't like today with rapid communication. And so he was on his way and they begged him to turn around because he'd be mobbed and killed himself. And he believed in the best of people. And he gave the most eloquent speech I have ever heard. And I'm going to replay that speech on Monday. But he preached calm and goodness and asked for the best of people. And I, in a very ineloquent way, would ask the same, that you don't harden your heart, that we show compassion and love and don't become everything that we feel the left is. That yes, somebody just tried to kill our candidate and our president. And I would be as horrified if that had happened to Biden as I am now. But we must be, if we believe in the Republic, if we believe in these values, if we believe in these principles, if we believe that this is a nation that was founded on Christian principles, then the strongest of those Christian principles is love, compassion. I was talking to a family member earlier today, and they were talking about how horrible Trump supporters are. And I listened to him because in some cases they had a point, that some people have just become, everything that we don't want to become. And he has experienced some of that. And I said, I understand that, and people will be people. But have you ever asked yourself, what caused that person to be like that? Now, some people are just mean, nasty, awful people, but not everybody is. So what caused that person to do that? Could it be that for 10 years being called deplorables, awful, Bible thumpers, killers, racists, Nazis, I don't know, tends to push people to the edge and have them, say, I'm gonna hit back. I'm gonna hit back. I ask you today to be the best person that you can be. I ask you today to be loving and to take this opportunity to show the other side who might be saying horrible things. I'm so happy I'm in the mountains and not have access to everything. Who might be saying nasty things, that you don't strike back. You show them who we are. We knelt down as a family and prayed for President Trump and his family. And then we also prayed for President Biden, and we prayed for RFK. We pray for any of our leaders. This is not who we are. This is what I believe some want us to become. Pray for peace. Pray for the Democrats who are going to repeat 1968 in Chicago. If we can just come together, we will never lose our country. But millions and billions of dollars have been spent to divide us apart, and it's a lie. All we have to do is to return to our principles, and one of our principles is we don't shoot our presidents. We find that offensive. No matter who is being shot, no matter which side is being shot or attempted to be assassinated, we don't do that because we're Americans. I pray again for the Republic. Lord, hear our prayer. Heal our land. See the millions of people that are turning to you and asking for safety and forgiveness, Lord. Bless President Trump and his family. Bless all those that are around. Bless him from this shock. Heal our president. Heal our land. Heal our hearts. And save the Republic. In Jesus' name, I will see you Monday back on the radio with more.
Real Talk with the RN Diva and Pastor Robert podcast. Now streaming on X and wherever you podcast. Let's go.
Describing what happened. Important to note here, he is also, of course, extending condolences to the person who was hurt, the person who was believed to be killed there, and thanking law enforcement for their incredibly fast response. And you saw the response, Lester, in one of these remarkable moments as it unfolded. In some quarters, in some places online, there was a live stream of this happening. Obviously, the cameras of every network in the country were on this, given that he is the presumptive Republican nominee, of course, before this happened. And you see the absolute chaos there in Butler that we've been describing from Dasha, from Jillian, from Jake and Bianca and our teams there as the rest of it unfolded there. So again, Lester, the first statement that we are getting from the former president himself, posted as Donald Trump is wont to do, posted on an online platform there on Truth Social as he's looking to get the message out immediately, as quickly as he can, it appears, to the American people, that he appears to be okay, that he's extending his condolences, and specifically what happened, as he says, that bullet hit his ear, Lester.
Yeah, incredible to look at how close that was to hitting a vital area of him. That first description from the former president himself, Hallie Jackson, thanks very much. Our senior White House correspondent, Kelly O'Donnell, joins us. Kelly, you have a new statement from President Biden.
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to go to Garrett Hake right now. Garrett?
Lester, in reading...
Okay, looks like we
reading
lost
that statement from Donald Trump, confirming that, in fact, he was shot in this incident in Butler tonight. I think about the times that I've discussed his safety with members of his campaign over the last year or so, and there has always been tension and awareness in the minds of Donald Trump's campaign staff, even at senior levels, of the risk that he takes every time he goes out. Campaign officials will tell you that he gets an enormous amount of threats, frankly, as many politicians do across the political spectrum, and that the campaign has worked across this very long period of time since he first announced more than a year ago that he would be running for president, to balance, in some cases, his desire to hold these kind of mega rallies, these huge outdoor events, with his personal safety. They are very cautious about using what is known in the industry as OTR stops, the idea of him appearing at short notice in certain locations where folks cannot necessarily be screened in the same manner that they are by the Secret Service at events like this. And, you know, any presidential campaign thinks thinks about the candidate's safety. It's a major part of the job. You work with the Secret Service for that reason. But this has been front and center in the minds of campaign staffers going back really since before the launch of this campaign. Obviously, an unusual campaign in the sense that here is someone who has never not had Secret Service protection from the moment he was first sworn in 2017 through this moment. And I think looking ahead now, and this is something that we're trying to report out, is what, if anything, is going to change about the Republican convention next week? Obviously, the former president was set to arrive there on Monday morning. He was expected to be in Milwaukee across those 4 days. These conventions, as many of our viewers know, are very much high security situations. Downtowns locked down days in advance, very difficult to go in or out. What will change in the security, and what will change in the messaging of this convention? We've already seen some of Donald Trump's allies, perhaps most notably his son, Eric Trump, making use of that image on your screen right now, the fist pump from Donald Trump in the moments after we now know that he was shot, to say that this is the fighter America needs, in the words of Eric Trump and in the words of many of his allies, who I think, setting aside the moment that we're in right now, and especially knowing from the former president's own lips now, or his own fingertips, I suppose, that he's going to be okay. This image of him as a fighter is so central to his political identity, so central to his campaign's strategy, and something that I'm sure will be incorporated into whatever we see of the convention next week. What changes might be taking place right now, Lester, very difficult to say. The campaign is on a complete lockdown, not talking to the press, really working through first what's going on with their candidate and what their next steps will be tomorrow and in the days ahead.
All right, we're looking at a motorcade leaving a nearby hospital that has been under heavy security here since all this happened. We have not received confirmation that former President Trump has been treated there, but we did just see it looked like a small motorcade leaving the area. So we'll continue to monitor that picture. Gary, why have you here? Let's talk about what is likely on the minds of a lot of people. I mean, certainly we're looking at a case where there has been a loss of life. Another spectator has been seriously injured. But this comes as the country and Democrats are still wrestling with the issues over the President Biden's performance in the debate. And now this, I guess it'll take some days to play out as to whether we're looking at another reset and changing how people view this.
All right. We're going to break in here. We do have a message from former President Donald Trump through his Truth Social social media site. Says, I want to thank the United States Secret Service and all law enforcement for the rapid response to the shooting that just took place in Butler, Pennsylvania. Most importantly, I want to extend my condolences to the family of the person at the rally who was killed, and also to the family of another person that was badly injured. It is incredible that such an act can take place in our country. Nothing is known at the time about the shooter, who is now dead. I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew something immediately was wrong. I knew immediately that something was wrong, and that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through my skin. Much bleeding took place, so I realized then what was happening. God bless America. That's from former President Donald Trump. Let's go back to we're going to go back to our coverage here. Live coverage. We've been covering MSNBC. We've been covering CNN and Fox News. Let's go back, make the rounds. Let's go back to Fox News and continue this live coverage. Reports have been saying that he is planning on being at the UFC fight tonight that he was planning on being at anyway. So we'll see. Maybe the Secret Service will supersede that. All right, we'll see.
It's a long paragraph. I'm going to read it now, okay? During former President Trump's campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on the evening of July 13, at approximately 6:15 p.m., a suspected shooter fired multiple shots toward the stage from an elevated position outside of the rally venue. U.S. Secret Service personnel neutralized the shooter, who is now deceased. U.S. Secret Service quickly responded with protective measures, and former President Trump is safe. One spectator was killed, 2 spectators critically injured. This incident is currently under investigation, and the Secret Service has notified the FBI. Shannon, what clearly sticks out is that line about a a suspected shooter firing multiple shots from an elevated position outside of the rally venue, which would synchronize with some of the things we've been picking up on social media about a man dead on top of a roof outside of the rally.
Yeah, and witnesses who were there on the scene have talked with our Alexis McAdams. I want to read too from Ivanka Trump saying, "Thank you for your love and prayers for my father and for other victims of today's senseless violence in Butler, Pennsylvania. I'm grateful to the Secret Service and all the other law enforcement officers for their quick and decisive actions today. I continue to pray for our country. I love you, Dad, today and always."
Wow. Jason Chaffetz, quickly to you. I've got some more information, but go ahead, Jason.
This is a catastrophic failure of the United States Secret Service. The men and women who jumped on the former president, got in between him and a would-be shooter, they're heroes. But if there was a person with a gun within proximity to take down the president of the United States, those people have got to be held accountable. They should be fired. There is no reason that a gun should be within close proximity that can shoot a former president of the United States. That's why we have the Secret Service, and they failed us today. They failed us.
Jason, thank you. Jake Gibson reports the ID is not confirmed. Federal law sources, enforcement sources tell us the shooter's identity is still unconfirmed, and they're working on it. But first reports suggest the shooter was not carrying ID. So that is the initial report about the potential identity of the shooter. Shannon, you've got Fox News Sunday tomorrow morning. You will be on this story then. And thank you for your excellent work tonight.
You too, my friend.
All right, here's Sean.
And welcome to Hannity. And this is a Fox News alert. Today, the former president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, was the target of an apparent assassination attempt. One innocent attendee is now dead. President Trump, we are told, is alive and well and now in a safe location. The shooter, meanwhile, has been killed by U.S. Secret Service. And just breaking moments ago, President Trump's first reaction on Truth Social, quote, "I want to thank the U.S. Secret Service and all of law enforcement for their rapid response on the shooting that just took place in Butler, Pennsylvania. Most importantly, I want to extend my condolences to the family of the person at the rally who was killed and also to the family of another person that was badly injured. It is incredible that such an act can take place in our country." Now, nothing is known at this time about the shooter, who is now dead. He said, "I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew immediately that something was wrong in that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through the skin. Much bleeding took place, so I realized then what was happening. God bless America." According to the Secret Service tonight, quote, during former President Trump's campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on the evening of July 13th at approximately 6:15 p.m., a suspected shooter fired multiple shots towards the stage from an elevated position outside of the rally venue. U.S. Secret Service personnel neutralized the shooter, who is now deceased. U.S. Secret Service quickly responded with protective measures, and former President Trump is safe. One spectator was killed. 2 spectators were critically injured. This incident is currently under investigation. The Secret Service has notified the FBI. And in case you missed it, here's what went down just a few hours ago with sound. Take a listen. Take a look.
Take a look at what happened.
Move it there. Hold. When you're ready. On you. Ready. Move. Up. Move. Go. Up. Hawkeye's here. Hawkeye's here. Move it to the stand. Stair, get ready. Stair, get ready. We ready? Shooter's down. Shooter's down. Are we good? Shooter's down. Shooter's down. Are we good to move? Shooter's down. We're good to move. We're clear. We're clear. Let's move. We're clear. Come on. Let me get my shoes. I got you, sir. I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes, sir.
Hold on, your head, buddy.
So we got to move to the classroom. Move to the classroom. Let me get my shoes.
Okay,
What's up? Wait.
His chief social.
All right, we have full, complete news coverage all throughout the evening tonight. Joining us now with the very latest, live from Pennsylvania, Alexis McAdams. Alexis, what's the latest on the ground?
Hi, Sean. Well, being there in that media area, in the press area, watching the former president speak, he was just getting into immigration. The excitement was building. People were clapping and cheering, yelling, "Make America Great Again." And then you heard a series of loud pops. People really didn't even have time to react. Some people did hit the ground. Then we saw the Secret Service rush in. We're talking about the federal, the state, and local agencies doing everything they could as the former president then went down, Sean, right behind that podium. Coming back up a short time later after somebody yelled, "The shooter is down," with law enforcement, and on his ear you saw some blood. So that happened so quickly, and people came out here to support the former president. They were excited to see him, and then they left with this horrible tragedy. Take a look here. We're in this pan, Sean. You can see what's going on in Butler, Pennsylvania. It's cleared out now, but for hours after that shooting, people were stuck in traffic trying to get out because it is an active crime scene. So we're trying to piece this all together, and that includes talking to witnesses like Brandon, who you said you were up there pretty close to where the former president was speaking. What exactly did you hear and what did you see?
We're all just there, looking up at the screen that he has up, and I heard a loud pop, and I thought it was like the speaker cracking. And we heard another one, and then people started screaming, and so we all just hit the ground, and I started looking around as to what was going on, and I saw one of the Secret Service guys. He was firing back. There was probably 6-7 shots total, maybe. And then I look up in the bleachers, and people are just screaming and crying, and there's just blood everywhere. One of the guys got hit. And
knowing that somebody was hit. So now we know, obviously, the former president had a graze wound to his ear. He's expected to be, he'll be okay, he says. But to know somebody who came to this Trump rally just like you that was sitting right by you doesn't get to go home tonight with their family. You said you were sitting there and you saw the man who was shot actually near his family, and they were crying. What else? You went through the scene a little bit. What did you see? It sounded kind of gruesome.
Yeah, there was blood all over his family members. There was a guy up there trying to administer CPR. It all happened so quick, still trying to process everything. And we're just all down on the ground, and people down on the ground are crying. We don't know what to do. People are just screaming and crying. And then all of a sudden people started standing up, and we start walking out. And we looked on top of the AGR building, and there was Secret Service up there. They were standing around what we now know was the shooter. At that time, we really didn't know where it was coming from.
And to set this up, Sean, so when we were inside there, we're in the back with the media, and then when you could see the former president wasn't too far up from us speaking, this was all happening to his right. So this AGR building that we're talking about is the American Glass Research Building. That's at 68th and Whitestown here in Butler, so that's just outside of the ground. So it wasn't like this person entered, because we've been talking about safety and security and the Secret Service doing those pat-downs and checking bags. According to what we know right now from witnesses and the police is that this person was on a rooftop of this AGR building, which is outside of those grounds. So then you saw the people kind of surround that building. And going back to that man, though, and his family, were people crying and were people running out after they saw someone was shot?
No one really started running. We just all kind of hit the ground, and people were yelling for paramedics and police to come. And there was probably 6 or 7 state troopers that just all of a sudden showed up out of nowhere, and they hauled him off the bleachers, and who was dead at that time. But
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for talking to us. I'm glad that you're okay. I'm glad your family's okay. But I think most people are still in shock. I mean, just trying to piece this all together. But it is important to point out as we look at kind of the layout of where the former president was when he was grazed by that bullet on his ear, and then goes down, where this shooter was, according to investigators, was up on that roof of the AGR building outside of the farm grounds. Sean.
Alexis, great reporting. Let's go back to President Trump's statement on Truth Social. It pierced his upper right ear, is what he said. So what we're really talking about here is we're talking about maybe 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters, and he was probably assassinated. That's how close this guy got from this.
All right, we're going to break in here again from Fox News coverage here, and we'll go back to we'll go over to CNN and MSNBC in a moment. I do want to read this, and we're going to go also to Alex Jones because he has another statement here. Elon Musk, he just tweeted a few minutes ago, dangerous times ahead. 2 people, several occasions, have already tried to kill me in the past 8 months. They were arrested with guns about 20 minutes drive from Tesla headquarters in Texas. Yeah, Elon Musk has been one of the ones that's been under target. And now let's go to Alex Jones has another statement here. Let's see what he has to say.
Listen to me very carefully. I have told you for months on air they're going to try to kill Trump. And when they try to kill Trump, they're going to go after everybody else that is his top supporters. And they also will try to kill Biden and blame it on a Trump supporter. That's coming next. Make no mistake, the same deep state that's behind Biden, that's trying to make him step down, was behind this today. They're now reporting it was an Antifa shooter who's now been killed. How convenient is that the supposed shooter has been killed? Ladies and gentlemen, our republic is in maximum danger right now. I'm about to go live at Infowars.com/show, banned out video, and right here on X. There has been an attempted assassination. The real president of the United States has been shot, and by God's good graces, has survived. The bullet only grazed him over the ear and the side of his head. But ladies and gentlemen, the deep state is desperate. They are in trouble. They're going to try to expand wars. They can do power outages. They can do cyber attacks. We're in such a dangerous position. And I've noticed with all the viral videos out there, it's like, oh, he took a bullet for America. He's going to get reelected now. Ladies and gentlemen, the deep state did this. Make no mistake. And that lets you know they're going for broke. Do you fucking understand what I'm telling you? Take this deadly serious, just like war with Russia. They are going to try to kill Trump again. Now that they didn't kill him once, they are completely desperate. And I'm going to tell you again, Biden won't step down. The deep state will probably kill him or try to kill him in the next few days and blame it on a Trump supporter. And we may see massive terror attacks in America that are blamed on Trump supporters. They've been pre-programming it. They've been preparing. I've been telling you, imminent assassination attempt on Trump every damn day. Because that's what a dying, corrupt establishment does when their back is against the wall. We're living in a historical moment right now. We need Americans, people around the world, to pray for President Trump and pray for America, but also politically get out there on X and everywhere else that has some free speech and get the point out that this attempted assassination that actually wounded the president, took a bullet for America, lies at the feet of the deep state and the corporate media that said, kill him, destroy him, he deserves to die, he's a fascist, he's a Nazi. It lays at their feet. Instead, I see conservatives celebrating, hey, he'll win for sure now. It means the globalists are going to go for broke. It means they know their time is up. So I'm glad Trump survived. I am so happy. Thank It's all on the table, and the deep state's behind it. I'll be covering it live, coming up on X at Real Alex Jones in the next 10 minutes. Join me there and share the link if you want to stop these people dead in their fucking tracks. This is time to be serious and time to be focused and time to stop being naive and wake up.
All right, we're going to take a station identification break here, and then we need to reset our connections here. We'll be right back.
Real Talk with the RN Diva Pastor Robert podcast. Now streaming on X and wherever you podcast. Let's go.
Anderson, the other thing that I think this raises obviously is the ongoing investigation. They're going to they know exactly who this person is by now, and they're going to do the necessary work to figure out everything about that person's background, to find out any political beliefs, obviously anything that could explain the motivations, given the fact that we do not have a suspect alive now at this point, according to the Secret Service. So now the work is going to be done the hard way, Anderson, which is to gather evidence from that person's background.
So Evan, just briefly, let me just clarify. It's one rally goer killed, and now you've learned others have been wounded. That's correct?
Were wounded. That's according to the Secret Service statement.
Okay. So none of that includes the gunman himself?
Right, exactly. The gunman is a separate person who's been killed by the Secret Service.
All right, Evan Perez, thank you. John Miller has new reporting about the shooter. Let's go to him. John, what have you learned? John Miller, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Anderson.
Okay, great.
What we're learning now from law, you can hear me all right?
Yes, now. Go ahead.
What we're hearing from law enforcement sources now is that an individual was seen walking through the field by people who were outside the rally. People outside the rally couldn't see, but they could hear, so they had gathered in this field.
We're having trouble.
At some point, they see him on the roof with a rifle.
John,
I'm going to try and reconnect.
Yeah,
them.
we'll talk to you. We'll talk to you shortly. Tim Naftali, you're joining us here in New York, presidential historian. Obviously, this is not something. There was the attack on Steve Scalise. We have seen obviously a number of threats that have been intercepted by law enforcement over the years, but probably not since Ronald Reagan. At the presidential level has this occurred?
Not since Ronald Reagan, but I want to read you something that I think is as powerful today as it was the first time it was written. Tonight, this nation faces once again the consequences of lawlessness, hatred, and unreason in its midst. It would be wrong, it would be self-deceptive to ignore the connection between that lawlessness and hatred and this act of violence. That was Lyndon Johnson in June of 1968. A few years later, another presidential candidate was attacked. In 1972, George Wallace was gunned down. He survived, but he was paralyzed. We have had very violent political contests before. And it's something we ought to remember. We are capable of this as a nation. The people who do it, of course, are outliers, but they are a product of the extremism and the anger and the hatred that sometimes pulses through our elections. So tonight is a terrible reminder of another period in our history, but it's something that seems to be bred in the bone. And I can understand Scott's anger and sadness. I feel it too. I feel it for everyone. I feel it for everyone in our country because the gunman attacked democracy. When you use a gun to eliminate a choice for the American people, you are shooting democracy. You are playing God. And this is not the first time it has been done in our history. I hope it's the last, but one cannot say. But it is one of those moments when we are reminded that our democracy is fragile and that we as a people need to come together, understand that our past has been violent, and recognize that we have to stand up now and try to end the violence. This is a wake-up call.
Also joining us is CNN senior political commentator David Axelrod. David, your thoughts?
I agree more with what Tim just said. You know, I lived through as a young guy. I remember very clearly that era of violence and assassination in this country, and it was stunning then. We haven't really experienced it much yet, but lately, but we have experienced political violence of different sort, not an assassination attempt of a president or a presidential candidate, but others. And we do need to take this as a inflection point where we ask ourselves, is this where we want to go? Where we don't settle our differences peacefully, where we settle them through violence. Our system is set up so that we debate our differences and we settle them at the polling place. That's how it should be. That's how democracies function. And so we don't know what motivated this shooter yet, and we shouldn't jump to conclusions. You know, John Hinckley, who shot Ronald Reagan, was disturbed, and this seems like a more sophisticated attempt. But the other element of this, in addition to how close we came to an assassination of the candidate here, were the people who were attending this rally. You know, my initiation into politics was at a political rally when I was 5 years old. John F. Kennedy campaigning in my housing development in New York City, and that's what inspired me to politics. Never would have occurred to me or the folks, or my folks, or the people who took me, and that somehow that was a dangerous place to be. And so it's profoundly sad. I mean, whatever you think of what the president, the former president, said at that rally, or what brought people there and so on, that is not a place where people who bring their children should feel unsafe. So I think this is a bracing moment for our country, and hopefully a moment for reflection where everybody kind of pulls back from the abyss, so that we don't see this as a recurring event.
David, from the president of the United States, Joe Biden has, we're told the campaign has stopping TV ads for the time being. I mean, the Republican convention is supposed to begin on Monday. Unclear if this will impact that one way or the other. And I guess impossible at this point to know, where the campaigns go, does the tone and the tenor shift? Obviously, there's going to be a lot of finger pointing, a lot of vitriol, and I'm not sure any sign that will end.
No, I mean, there's so much at stake in this, in any election, and certainly in this election, and it's been a pretty bitter election to start with. And I don't know actually where it goes from here, Anderson. I mean, eventually the campaign will resume. But the fact that this happened on the doorstep of a convention has to change.
Ex-military, non-military, PTSD, drug addicts, alcoholics, wife beaters, his or her name. I don't care about his or her name. I don't care about their sexuality, what music they like, anything. I don't want to care. I don't care that they were, I don't want to hear that they were quiet guy, a loner, kept to himself. His neighbors describe him as weird. Who is some guy with three names, John Walker, Brian, there's always three, Lee Harvey Oswald, John Wayne Gacy. I don't want to hear this. Here's a manifesto. Keep your manifesto. I don't want to hear it. Don't lionize these people. Don't give anybody any reason to do this again. Just say, well, another one. He was dispatched. That's it. Let's move on. Are we going to find out his name? Nope. Nope. If the person was covered in tattoos and had Pelosi tattooed to his head, so what? The funniest line was, did you hear this one? The funniest thing was, Nancy Pelosi said, well, you know, Nancy Pelosi, she's an expert on political crime because her husband, I said, oh, you're not going to bring that one up again. Let me ask you something. How many people do you think need to know about the shooter? How many people? You want to know about the shooter? I want to make sure the shooter wasn't, you know, hired or wasn't a part of some kind of a special ninja team, whatever. But aside from that, do you care about anything about the shooter? Do you? Do you? Anybody? Do you care the person's name? Do you care where the person lives? What he looks like? Do you? Do you want to know what he thought? What music he liked? Do you want to read pictures? You want to see this one? Want to see this? Anybody? They were making. They even referenced Las Vegas. They even mentioned Las Vegas and the shooting at Las Vegas. Las Vegas. You sure you want to go into Las Vegas? Remember that one? Las Vegas. We never heard any. That story was the craziest. The ammo this guy had to bring up. Nobody knows anything about that. And you know, right now it's, and I do believe, and I will take this to heart, that they are happy, especially people in the biz, they're happy that nothing happened to Trump. Because when you're in that biz long enough, when you're in that biz, you yourself say, you know, he's kind of one of us. And all of us who have to go out and speak before folks, we don't like to hear about this. Now, I hope people like Maxine Waters kind of tones it down. She's been good lately. But remember the old days, she goes, I want you, if you're at a filling station restaurant, you call people out and you see somebody. Don't do that. Don't do anything that gives people the idea that maybe they should do something. They should act up. Period. That they should act up. Find out if there was any kind of conspiracy behind this. That's right, criminal conspiracy. Find out who put him up to it. And that's it. Prosecute people as it is. Now, can you imagine his next rally? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the next rally? The DNC, well, let me tell you this way. The DNC convention is Monday. No, I'm sorry. It's not DNC, GOP. GOP is Monday. It's Monday through Thursday. Do you know, in Milwaukee, do you know what that place is going to do when Donald Trump walks out? Do you have any idea, any clue, any idea, anything of what it's going to look like when Donald Trump shows up? Do you have any? No, you don't. This might be the biggest, loudest, this thunderous applause will be like something you've never heard. It will be a coronation, and it's fresh in our minds. It's Monday. It starts Monday. This is Saturday. And Joe Biden is thinking, and I got to hand it to him. Joe Biden was very good. He wasn't prompterish. I think he spoke from the heart. He was good. Give the guy a break. When he does the right thing, tell him it was good. And everybody so far, everybody to an extent. And don't expect anything from, please don't Joy Behar does not have to say anything. And Whoopi Goldberg and all these other people don't have to say anything. And they don't, I know that means a lot to them. Long live Donald J. Trump. Indeed, Mr. Lynch. Indeed. Without a doubt. But that moment, now the DNC is going to be saying, oh my God. What the hell are we going to do now? Oh my God.
Is he carrying ID? Has it been verified? If he wasn't, have they done the live scan fingerprints? Do they have that ID? If they do, are they moving towards that residence for the search warrants? There are scores of things that are happening in the background right now.
One quick question before I let you go, John, and you used to work at the NYPD, so you've seen these kinds of incidents, shooting incidents during the course of your career. In his statement, Donald Trump just said, and I'm quoting him now, "I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear." Now, if someone is shot with a bullet that pierces the upper part of your right ear, wouldn't that bullet also continue onto someone's skull and create a much more dangerous situation?
So that's a great question, Wolf. And you know what the intent of a shooter with a rifle in an attempted assassination is to get that bullet to go into the head and across. What may have happened here is that either the way the former president turned or the angle that the shooter had on that shot, it may have just grazed the outside, piercing the skin and carrying on. What's going to be really interesting, and this is how we're going to know whether it was hit by a ricochet or a fragment or a graze wound, is what did they recover from that wound? Is there a piece of a metal jacket from a round that was fired that they took out of the president where that cut is above the ear, or did the projectile continue on? That's why they cleared that area. And they did that at the expense of, there were literally hundreds and hundreds of eyewitnesses that they want to interview, but they also wanted to preserve that crime scene and get those ballistics and connect it to that weapon and get all the evidence they could.
Yeah, good point. Indeed, a lot of investigation will be needed. And Trump added that he immediately felt that the bullet ripping through the skin, much bleeding took place. So I realized then what was happening. I mean, a lot of bleeding, the bullet ripping through the skin could have been, God forbid, a lot worse indeed. John Miller, thank you very much. Anderson, back to you.
Wolf, thanks. It is about 9:30 p.m. here on the East Coast. This occurred around 6:15 p.m. in Butler, Pennsylvania. If you're just joining us, I'm going to be playing what the former president, how this began, the former president making remarks shortly into the beginning of this campaign appearance. Let's watch.
No, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Moving to spare. Hold. When you're ready. On you. Ready. Move. Up. Move. Go. Up. Hawkeye's here. Hawkeye's here. Moving to the spare. Spare, get ready. Spare, get ready. You ready? Are we good? Shooter's down. Are we good to move? We're clear. Let's go. Let's move. We're clear. Let me get my shoes. I got you, sir. Let me get my shoes, sir. Hold on, your head is bloody. So we got to move to the car. Let me get my shoes. Okay, my shoes down. Watch out.
CNN primetime anchors Caitlin Collins and Abby Phillip are here with me. Caitlin, I know you've been talking to sources. What's the latest you're hearing?
The entire campaign apparatus is just deeply rattled. A lot of people have not been able to have a chance to speak with the former president directly. A few of them have. Obviously, we heard from him himself, but even his children just had a few brief moments on the phone with them. We've heard from most of them so far, all obviously still processing this. I mean, obviously, every president is hyper aware of their security and their surroundings ever since what happened to President Reagan and also JFK. Donald Trump himself is also one of those. I mean, I've been to dozens of these rallies. This is outside, obviously, so the security perimeter is different, but you go through Secret Service security to go into any rally like this. You go through a magnetometer, you have that instance. I should note what I'm hearing from a lot of them is questions about the security here and what happened and how something like this could happen, because it does seem unthinkable, I think. And the House Oversight Chair, James Comer, just put out a statement saying that he has reached out to Secret Service Director. He's requesting briefings. We are going to see action on Capitol Hill as a result of this, even though we are very much still learning so much of this. But I also spoke with people who were there. I'm not going to say the name of one of the people I was on the phone with just because they had to get off very quickly, so I don't want to disclose their identity, but they were right up there near the front when this happened. And they said you could see Trump react as obviously, as he says now, it was a bullet that grazed his ear. And you can hear the panic in his voice in those first few moments in the audio where he's saying, let me get my shoes, let me get my shoes. And then he's whisked off stage. He pumped his fist, as you can see here in this photo right now. I was told that as he was taken down into the motorcade before he was taken to the hospital there in Butler, Pennsylvania, he kind of pumped his fist again and had this defiant kind of stance, you know, reacting in the moment to what happened. He has left the hospital, but a lot of people obviously are still just trying to get in touch with him and to talk to him in the aftermath of this.
Yeah, I mean, it is inconceivable that something like this could have happened. I mean, I've covered President Obama, President Trump, candidates, even at outdoor rallies, in fact, especially at outdoor rallies, the kind of security that they would have, the perimeter, not just where people are going, but all the buildings surrounding it. There's a reason that that whole apparatus is supposed to extend even beyond just the rally itself. And it's because of this country's long, dark history with exactly this scenario.
Right. I mean, they have counter snipers who are with binoculars scanning
all
buildings
over.
all
so
over.
Usually on top of those very buildings. And so, I mean, this is not, unfortunately, as Tim said, not a new scenario for this country. In fact, it is a scenario that's played out too many times in this country, and the Secret Service is deeply aware of that. Every single time that a protectee comes even close to an incident like this, it's something that sets off an incredible amount of soul searching within the organization, and I'm sure this one will too. But for the country tonight, I think so many people it doesn't matter where you are in the political spectrum. I'm hearing from them, obviously, tonight. People are stunned and they're worried. They are worried about what is going to happen in this country. We still have some 4 months before the end of this election, and this is occurring before a major political event. There is a lot of fear in the country right now about what this portends and also what it says about where we are.
And you think, I mean, it's, there's Ronald Reagan, but Steve Scalise, Nancy Pelosi, the man who
Gabby
came to
Giffords,
her house,
who pulled out a statement tonight
her husband,
as well.
Gabby Giffords as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen these incidents before, but there's something, Anderson, particular about it happening in the context of a presidential campaign. It's a sign, as President Biden said tonight, of a sickness in the country, that someone thought to take a step to alter or affect the outcome of a presidential election with an act like this. And for people who are watching tonight, who are wondering what this means, I mean, they are right to wonder, because I think we all have to be prepared for a lot of chaos ahead. But I also think it's a moment for the country to decide right now what kind of country we live in, and whether or not this is the kind of thing that is going to really change how we conduct ourselves. I mean, I think it is still within the power of patriotic citizens in this country to push back against this kind of darkness.
Well, and just on the security aspect of this, there were counter snipers there. You can see them in videos, because there's a building behind. Obviously, he's in Butler County. This is deep Trump country, but there's a building that you can see that was kind of behind where Trump is out on the stage. You can see it in the photos. that people who were there took and the videos that they took. You see the counter snipers on there. You can see them anytime Trump is somewhere, you often see them. I think also the question and what we're hearing tonight, you mentioned the Republican convention that is starting in Milwaukee on Monday, where Trump and many of his surrogates were slated to travel to as soon as tomorrow. We are told it is still expected to go forward. We'll see if that changes as the night progresses and as this investigation is getting underway. But security was already an issue there. The footprint, the RNC wanted it to be wider than what it was. I do think this is only going to make it and the Democratic convention in Chicago in a month from now only even more intense as they're learning more about this.
I do, to the point we just made, we have new video, and it's from a BBC interview with a man who claimed to be an eyewitness, who was also outside the perimeter of this. We cannot independently verify his account, but we think it's important you see. Take a look.
We noticed a guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us, 50 feet away from us. So we're standing there, we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle. We could clearly see him with a rifle. Absolutely. We're pointing at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police were like, huh, what? Like they didn't know what was going on. We're like, hey, right here on the roof, we can see him from right here. We see him. He's crawling. And next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him for, 2-3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof, just standing there like this. And next thing you know, 5 shots ring out.
I want to bring in our John Miller as well. John, I'm sure you've seen that interview. What do you make of it? Clearly, it raises really a lot of questions.
Serious questions. And it's consistent with what police have been getting in their interviews with people who saw this guy cross the field and climb this roof. But the question it raises is, he's saying they're pointing him out to the police, and the police are, I guess he's not clear about how they're reacting, but he said they're running around. Are they communicating with others to say, who is that on the roof? He says they're pointing to the Secret Service guys on the next roof and pointing to this roof and saying, do you see this guy? And that's going to be all that communication about who is this individual? Is it law enforcement or is it someone else? If it's law enforcement, they should already know that, which has got to be setting off alarms. And in a very short time between him being spotted up there on the roof with the rifle and the incident, there's going to be an extraordinarily, excruciatingly detailed examination about who knew what, how was this communicated, and who determined to take what action or not take what action as they sorted out who this person was before he opened fire, at which point they took immediate action. But this is going to be deeply examined for a long time.
John, you were talking about the number of shots and the sort of the grouping of them. It seemed to me that there were sort of 3 separate. There was an initial few, then there was another several, and then it seemed to me there was a third which seemed louder and produced more screams from somebody in the crowd, and that seemed to be off to the left of the former president. Is that your understanding as well? Because you had said that you thought the second grouping was the counter snipers hitting the shooter. It seemed to me that there was a sort of a single shot later on, but maybe.
Well, some technical difficulties there with CNN. Let's go ahead and go over to Dan Bongino.
I'm wrong.
Well,
and see what he has to say. Dan Bongino, who has a podcast, also is a former Secret Service agent during the Bush and Obama years. Let's see what he has to say.
For President Trump. If you go back and listen to episode 2079, President Trump does not have that. He doesn't have that now. I get it. There are some legalities involved. But President Trump is a former president running for re-election. You essentially have two incumbents running. Folks, he does not have a full presidential package right now. It is putting the man in danger. His threat level is apocalyptic and catastrophic. It is time right now for Kim Cheadle, the Secret Service director, to get her head out of her ass and do the right thing. I can tell you stories for days about her putting politics ahead of presidential protection. I am not being overly emotional because I've said it before. The Secret Service director is utterly unqualified right now to be doing what she's doing. It is time for her first to get this thing solved. It's an emergency situation right now and find out what happened, but she should step down immediately. Some of the things she has told people on that detail about security arrangements, clearly making political statements, she is completely unqualified. It is time for President Trump to have a full presidential package. I'll leave you with this, and then I'm asking you all, please, again, it's in these times where, you know, I'm not some freaking poet, man, so we don't need to do any of that stuff. I'm just saying, you know, like when these people get lost at sea, they have lighthouses and stuff for a reason, you know? God's that one for you, and he's that one for us right now. Just ask. Just open up. Prayer matters. It's not a joke. It's not some scam. What do you think? This was all created out of some kind of alien mist or something? We need them right now. The nation needs them. We're still the United States of America, even though we got a lot of crazy people. You don't want some foreign country right now taking advantage of this chaos. And on this, listen, I say all the time, maybe put a little smile on your face in a really tragic time. Campaigns are snapshots and sound bites. That's all they are. Donald Trump's got a lot of guts, man, getting up there, exposing himself again to what he knew was an assassination attempt, and pounding his fist in the air. That snapshot's going to live forever. That was a clip from the Dan Bongino Show. You can watch the full show. We recommend you do on Rumble. Go to rumble.com/Bongino, please, and subscribe for free. We appreciate it.
Real Talk with the RN Diva Pastor Robert podcast. Now streaming on X and wherever you podcast. Let's go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have done all we can do here tonight. We've done about 3 hours straight. Let's go back about 6:11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Former President Donald Trump was shot at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, from a sniper shooter that was on a rooftop outside the perimeter of the event. Of course, he was shot almost instantly and killed. He was shot, looks like it grazed his ear, former President Trump's ear. There are reports that there's 2 fatalities, not including the shooter. And so we got to pray for those. Some people that were sitting in the bleachers right behind President Trump. Whether it's President Trump, whether it's President Biden, whether it's President Obama, whether it's President Clinton, whether it's President George W. Bush, this should not be happening. I remember the assassination attempt of Ronald Reagan back in 1981, a long time ago. It's getting too rough out there. I'm asking everybody to be careful. Don't be fearful, but be careful, because I don't think this is over yet. I just don't. You can put your comments down below, and we'll try to respond to them. Those of you on YouTube, those of you on X, those of you on Facebook, we'd love to hear your comments. If you want to help what we're doing, the information is down at the bottom of the screen. But anyway, Saturday, July 13th, now shall live in infamy, because this would be that shot of him. There's a couple shots actually. One of him where it looks like he was when he's on the ground. The blood. Then when he was fist pumping, with the Secret Service carrying him out. Reports have said he's fine. He's already tweeted his Truth Social and all that, so he's okay. The Republican National Convention begins on Monday in Milwaukee. I'm sure they're going to be up in security detail there. They may change the whole format and may go virtual. I wouldn't be surprised. And then also, President Joe Biden has made 2 statements, and he's looking to speak to former President Trump as soon as he's able to. And he said he will let everybody know that. That's what he's supposed to do. No problem with that. But we need to pray for President Biden, former President Trump, RFK Jr., Cornel West, Jill Stein, all them folk that's running. Because I don't think this is over yet. And we need to tone it down. To those who thought this was fake, wow. Have we become so cynical that 2 people died, 3 people died, 2 people died, 3 people died. The main target didn't die, but got hit. And people will be living with that were there, traumatic, post-traumatic stress syndrome, all that kind of stuff for the rest of their lives. I know that people hate Trump. Some people hate Biden. But I think it was staged. You might want to think about that one again. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. If you want to support what we're doing, the information is down at the bottom of your screen. Also, there it is right there as well. No pressure. Do what you can do. Zelle, Rob Carpenter 2 at iCloud.com. It's Cash App, $ Rob Carpenter 2. Venmo at Rob Carpenter 2. Coinbase with the cryptocurrency. Rob Carpenter II. PayPal at Rob Carpenter 2. And if you want to go to buymeacoffee.com/TheRCTV Network, please feel free to make a donation to what we're doing. Real soon, as you've been seeing throughout the breaks, we'll be coming back with Real Talk with the RN Diva, Pastor Robert podcast, available wherever you podcast. Diva's been on a project, and so we'll be so glad to have her back. Can't do it without her. And then those of you church folk, if you're interested as well, you can see that we've also started the COG Equity, the Church of God Equity podcast. Also available wherever you podcast. And we'll be doing that weekly as well. We started that this week. So check it out. This is Pastor Robert here. Woo! Lord have mercy. I was getting ready for church. It's been raining all day. It's church tomorrow, but I got to get all ready again. All right. Hey, let's get on out of here. Pray for our country. We need it. We need it. God bless America. God help America. Peace out.
Real Talk with the RN Diva Pastor Robert podcast. Now streaming on X and wherever you podcast. Let's go.